Welcome to Last Dawn Stories channel. Bad news, my boyfriend is planning to dump me to chase after the campus beauty. Good news, I hit the jackpot on the lottery numbers I've been playing for 3 years, 20 million after taxes. Bad news, my best friend claims she's been reincarnated and tells me the apocalypse is coming in 3 months. Give me a moment, my fragile heart can't handle these dramatic ups and downs. Kevin, how can I live without you? I sat in a barbecue restaurant, hugging a Coke, attempting to eat myself to death with it. Kevin, tall, gentle, handsome, with a six-pack, was my boyfriend since my junior year of college, and it's been almost a year now. I thought we had a great relationship. With graduation looming, I was even starting to plan where to buy our house, but then he told me he had fallen for Sarah, the campus beauty. I always thought I wasn't too bad myself, fair and glowing skin, peach blossom-like eyes, high attractiveness, confident, hardworking, good temperament, slim and healthy figure, but my rival had to be Sarah. Even I liked her. It's infuriating. Ding dong, a text message, 20 million deposited into my account. My anger dissipated. Fine, it's goodbye then. The next one will be better behaved. Without Kevin, at least I still have money. Then my phone rang. It was a video call from my best friend Judy. I might as well tell her about my lottery win. I answered the video call. Hey, Judy, I was just about to tell you. Before I could finish, she interrupted me. Shut up and listen to me first. Judy, visibly agitated, cut me off. I was confused but decided to keep quiet and listen. Winnie, it's a disaster. The world is about to end. What? I thought my life was on its way to a great turnaround. Instead, within a few minutes, it turned into an apocalypse escape. I moved the phone away to make sure it was indeed Judy. But with scams nowadays using high-tech methods, not only can they change numbers online, they can also imitate voices. I heard they even have videos that can pretend to be someone else. Judy, looking resigned, said, I can tell by your face what you're thinking. Do you want me to check into a mental hospital? No need, I've already told you I've been reincarnated. Let me tell you a bit about the future I know. First, you've just broken up with Kevin. Second, you've just won the lottery, 20 million after taxes. I was stunned. Kevin wasn't the type to announce his single status on social media the day we broke up, and me, due to metaphysical reasons, had been playing the same lottery numbers for 3 years without telling anyone. Not even Judy knew more than the fact I was buying lottery tickets. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, and stood by the roadside waiting for a taxi. Can you tell me what we did with this 20 million in my past life? Judy cheerfully responded, that's easy. After you won, you immediately transferred 5,200,000 to your parents. You hadn't planned the rest yet, but taking advantage of the long weekend and 2 days off from school, you took me on a trip to Japan. We specifically went to Kabukicho Ikibangai, and you even crazily stuffed money into the top male stripper at a male strip club. Okay, that's enough, I got it. I calmly stopped her from going any further, although it seems these were things my past self had done. But what does another world's Winnie have to do with me? I don't believe a mere breakup can unleash my true nature. Just then, I saw a taxi with a vacancy sign. Alright, let's not talk about this now. I'm about to take a taxi to your school. One last question, Judy, I asked before the car came to a stop. Shoot, did Kevin end up with Sarah in my past life? At a time like this, you're still thinking about men. Judy's tone was one of disappointment mixed with frustration. Kevin wasn't with Sarah, at least not before the apocalypse began. After the apocalypse, all mobile phones broke down and remained that way until her death, so she didn't have much clarity. I hung up the phone, got into a taxi, and distractedly told the driver to head to University C. My heart felt heavy, wondering why Kevin hadn't ended up with Sarah. During the journey from University X to University C, I chatted randomly with the driver, learning that he had a daughter 1 year junior to me in college, a particularly timid girl who would blush and speak in a soft voice at just a few words. I remarked, that's quite rare, considering girls from J City are known to be fiery. I've never really met someone so gentle. The driver glanced at the rearview mirror on the left and skillfully overtook a Mercedes in front, his tone carrying a hint of worry. Her mother and I are always concerned about her being bullied. I couldn't help but advise, sir, you might be sharing too much. Someone might take advantage of your openness. The driver chuckled and said, don't worry, I've been driving a taxi for over 20 years. I've seen all sorts of people, and I can tell you're a kind-hearted young lady. Looks can be deceiving, I thought, years ago. Judy and I were tricked by someone who seemed kind and beautiful. I didn't respond, instead texting Judy. When did the apocalypse you mentioned start, the exact date? Judy quickly replied, June 12th. I don't know the exact time it began, but I encountered the first zombie at 7 a.m. Got it, I'm almost there. Can you meet me at the university entrance? Fine, you're so bothersome, I'll come get you, soon. Thanks to the driver's skilled driving, I arrived at University C. The driver stopped the meter, 207, you're about the same age as my daughter. Let's round it down to $207, a fifth of my living expenses, but I had just won 20 million. So I wasn't bothered by the small amount. I unbuckled my seatbelt, took out $200 from my bag, hesitated, then pulled out another 100. That was all the cash I had in my wallet. I handed the money to the driver and said, believe it or not, take June 10th off for your daughter. No, make it 2 days, stay home and play for a couple more days, you and your wife as well. Also, stock up on some non-perishable food and bottled water, but keep it quiet, there might be some trouble those days. If nothing happens, consider the extra money my way of apologizing. The driver looked startled, furrowing his brow. Are you saying something's going to happen in country A? I paused, shook my head seriously. No, I didn't say anything. This misunderstanding would do, just staying indoors would suffice, whether they believed it or not, or whether it was true or false. This was all I could do. The driver nodded solemnly. I understand, you know nothing, as the driver was about to leave. I heard him muttering to himself, no wonder she's from University C, always so well informed. I appreciated the driver's acknowledgement, but I was from University X. At the entrance of University C, I immediately spotted Judy coming to meet me, not because we were close, but because of her brightly shining pink hair. Stuttering, I pointed at her hair. Your hair. Judy casually stroked her shoulder-length hair and said, your reaction is exactly the same as in your past life. Dealing with this pink hair has really been a challenge. It's like standing out makes you a target. We returned to the small room Judy rented for her graduate exams at school. Although tiny, it had everything one might need. Right by the entrance was her bed, across which stood an old small TV airing the news. Judy grabbed an ice pop from the fridge and handed it to me. Back in my past life, I worked so hard preparing for grad school, watching the news daily to keep up with current events, only to find that what really held me back was my own laziness, she remarked. She explained that to save time for her studies, she had stockpiled loads of instant noodles, biscuits, bottled water, chips, dried tofu, and chocolate at home. You're not planning on having proper meals at all, are you? I commented, picking out a packet of beef jerky from the cupboard. Let's not even talk about it. I had almost finished all these snacks by the day of the apocalypse. Luckily, you visited me just before that and restocked some rice, flour, and oil for me. Otherwise, I doubt I would have lasted as long as I did in my past life. Judy collapsed onto the bed like a boneless heap and murmured, I feel like my anxious heart has completely calmed down while waiting for you. When I was first reborn, thinking about you winning 20 million made me believe we could really prepare well and survive the apocalypse. Now, I think, dying doesn't seem so bad after all. It's just like closing your eyes. Life is just like that, Judy added with a hint of mild depression and a tendency to overthink. The words, end of the world, inherently carry much of humanity's darker nature. She's definitely going through a tough time. I rolled over to her side in a swivel chair, nudging her leg with my foot. Cheer up a bit, you've finally got a chance to learn from your past life. You can't waste it. I mean, I'm a woman with 20 million, you can't bear to see me spend all that money, can you? Judy sat up a bit, seizing the moment. I pressed on, get up and tell me what's going to happen during the apocalypse. We need to start planning right now, we have 3 months. And every second counts. Judy finally sat up completely from the bed. What a situation, dealing with the apocalypse and also worrying about my best friend's mental health. Wait, when did I start assuming the apocalypse was really going to happen? It seems my subconscious already believes her. I found a blank notebook on her desk, grabbed 2 pens, one black, one blue, with plenty of time now. Let's organize everything. I'll ask, you answer. Okay, Judy nodded. First question. When does the apocalypse start? Judy pulled out her phone to check the calendar. June 12th. Is it just humans that mutate? No, animals and plants too. I shivered inwardly but kept writing. Have all mutated? Judy shook her head. No, just a part. What types of animals and plants have mutated mainly? Are they all harmful to humans? Judy thought for a moment. Mainly plants, both herbaceous and woody. But I'm not sure about the mechanism of their mutation. I haven't seen mutated crops. Some plants have grown larger or smaller, and some can even move. Mutated animals are less common, at least from what I've seen, because I died pretty early in my past life. The mutated animals I've encountered were mostly cats, dogs, rabbits, and snakes. They're highly aggressive. Every encounter led to heavy casualties among escape groups, but they seem to have a sense of territory. As long as you leave their hunting range, they won't continue to chase you. Regarding plants, they are not very aggressive, but getting entangled with them can be quite troublesome, and there have indeed been fatalities caused by plants. I tapped my chin with a pen, lost in thought. These common mutant animals can all be kept as pets. Is it possible that these animals were not mutated on their own but were infected by humans? And plants, on the other hand, seem to mutate more easily the farther they are from humans. Is there a way to avoid these mutant plants? Judy uncertainly suggested, maybe spray some pungent perfume or herbicide on ourselves. It's said to make mutant plants keep their distance. When did the water, electricity, and gas stop? Did they ever come back? About a week after the apocalypse started, up until the day I died, they hadn't been restored. When did communications stop? They stopped on the third day of the apocalypse. Only radios still worked. Also, that same day, a red mist filled the air. Red mist. Do you know anything about this mist? Judy shook her head. Have you tried using satellite phones? I briefly set aside the issue of the red mist. Normal people don't have satellite phones. I nodded. Then we could buy one. Is this disaster global? The radio said it was global. I was about to continue questioning when suddenly, the voice of a news anchor became unusually clear in my ears. Judy and I both found our attention drawn involuntarily to the television. Recently, reporters learned from the International Science Academy's Young Observatory that a scientist using a radio telescope has discovered a new comet, named D/2025 S3F. This is the seventh comet discovered by our country's radio telescopes. According to scientists' calculations, this comet will pass close to Earth in about 3 months, at a minimum distance of 72 million kilometers. I stopped my inquiries, and so did Judy. I think I might know the origin of the apocalypse in 3 months. I murmured. Judy seemed a bit dazed as well. Suddenly, she said, the night before the apocalypse started, there seemed to have been a heavy rain. It was as if the heavens were weeping for humanity's last days. We compiled the information we had related to the apocalypse. What do you think about this? I handed Judy the paper with the information I had written. Judy carefully looked at the paper in her hand and confirmed. That's all I know too. I put on gloves, opened a new stack of A4 paper, and printed out the content. Playing the Good Samaritan again, Judy leaned against the door, watching me prepare with a skeptical eye. I organized the printed information. No, let's wait a bit longer. I plan to send a few letters to relevant departments first. If someone believes it, being more prepared is always good. Judy scoffed. Don't be silly. We've grown up together. We're friends for life. And you still suspect I'm crazy. How would they believe? I smirked. Can't help it. Ever since I was rescued from kidnappers by the police, I've developed the habit of turning to them when there's trouble, and even if, you know how many such letters they receive every day, they might not even read it. If they do, they'll probably just think I'm a lunatic. Even if I really get arrested, just hire a lawyer to bail me out. It's no big deal, but knowing that a disaster is looming and doing nothing just isn't me. Judy snorted but didn't try to stop me. Still such a good person. You won't last 3 days in an apocalypse. Suddenly, I remembered something. Oh, Judy, do you remember anything that will happen in the next 3 months that could prove you're from the future? Judy rolled her eyes. I come from an apocalyptic world of life and death. How am I supposed to remember gossip? Wait, I think there are actually 2 things. In April, the ambassador from country A will visit our country. In May, a top-tier celebrity was exposed for drug use. As for other matters, I honestly can't remember. I nodded, and with the next 2 pieces of gossip and intelligence in mind, I wrote a letter. Tomorrow I'll find a place with less surveillance, cover my face, and send it anonymously. Judy and I spent 2 days looking at houses because this apocalypse brought not only zombies but also various mutated plants and animals, making it quite time-consuming to pinpoint our apocalyptic fortress. We settled on a large, standalone villa in the suburbs, far from both the village and the city, an ostentatious mansion built by a wealthy individual returning to his hometown, flashy yet impractical. However, This villa perfectly met the needs of Judy and me. We even hired 2 professionals to inspect the house. They confirmed that the structural walls and foundations were robust, capable of withstanding an earthquake of up to magnitude 8. The villa was spacious, with 4 floors, including a rooftop and 2 basements. It had a garden in the front, a vegetable patch in the back, and a swimming pool that could be used for storing water. There was also a well next to the garden. Moreover, the villa was surrounded by a high and thick electrified fence. Likely designed by the owner who, considering the secluded location, feared break-ins. Though remote, the road in front of the house was wide and straight, clearly well maintained, facilitating an easy getaway by car. The surrounding vegetation was common and not overly abundant, making it unlikely to encounter harmful mutated plants. The villa's owner was asking for $10 million. I was ready to agree on the spot, planning to take out a mortgage. With only a $3 million down payment required, whether or not I could afford the subsequent payments was another question. Just as I was about to accept, Judy tugged at my sleeve, asking me to wait. "Boss, has someone died in this house? Selling a haunted house for so much doesn't seem right," Judy calmly remarked. "Haunted house?" My face turned pale, and I reflexively grabbed Judy's sleeve. "Don't worry," Judy soothed me, patting my hand gently. "Think about it, Winnie, in 3 months. There will be walking corpses everywhere. What's a haunted house in comparison?" The owner's smile faltered, and he sighed. "So long after, and people still remember." I then recalled that this villa was where a well-known real estate developer was stabbed to death by his wife a few years ago. Judy chuckled. "Buying a house is a serious matter. How can we be so hasty? Give us a better deal, and we'll go sign the contract right away." The owner hesitated, then gritted his teeth. "How much are you offering?" $5 million, Judy said with a smile. The owner shook his head. "That won't do, young lady. My wife and I decided to sell because we're moving to Australia, and we've already listed it at a low price." Judy shook her head too. "You're in a hurry to sell. We're not in a hurry to buy. This place is isolated, and it's a haunted house. If this villa wasn't exactly to my friend's taste and wasn't fairly secure, we wouldn't be interested at all." The owner steeled himself and finally said, $6 million. Judy, squinting and smiling, replied, "Deal. We'll go to the bank and handle the paperwork today." With $20 million in my bank account, the mortgage process went very smoothly, with a lower interest rate than I had anticipated. Importantly, the down payment was only 25%, or $1.5 million. With a monthly repayment of $22,000 to the bank, considering the apocalypse is just 3 months away. We managed to secure this house for less than $1.6 million. Compared to buying the house, it was the renovations that really took a toll on our budget. Judy and I contacted several renovation companies before we found a construction team we were satisfied with. This team previously worked on vaults for banks. Following our requirements, the workers built another wall around the villa, 6 meters away from the existing walls, using the sturdiest blue bricks. This new wall measures 816 meters in length, 3.5 meters in height, and 0.7 meters in width, and includes a layer of 1 centimeter thick steel sheets, essentially a miniature fortress wall. Strategically placed stairs allow access to the top of this wall. I personally negotiated the price of the bricks directly at the brick factory. The volume wasn't huge, so the best price I could get was $4 per brick, considering potential wastage and other areas that might need repairs. The cost of bricks alone amounted to $500,000. The villa's original fence was only 2 meters high with a spiked top and made of railings, not solid walls. Although it had an electric grid, the power supply was expected to fail soon after the apocalypse, making it effective against humans but not against zombies. We designed 8 stone pillars inside the inner wall, paired with lightweight, movable ladders, allowing one to reach the outer wall without having to open the inner wall gate. The outer wall features watchtowers, and in situations where the main gate remains closed, rope ladders can be deployed for people to exit and enter. Viewed from above, the fortress generally appears as irregular concentric circles, though these circles are not interconnected. On the opposite side of the concentric circle's main gate, 2 walls enclose a room directly connected to the inner circle, serving as a garage that can accommodate 3 off-road vehicles. Only Judy and I have the keys to this garage. All the villa's windows were replaced with 4 centimeters thick explosion-proof glass, covered with a reflective one-way film that allows viewing from the inside out but not vice versa. The walls were also lined with explosion-proof material and soundproofing layers to prevent noise from attracting zombies and mutant animals. This should also provide some resistance if mutant animals were to attack. The villa's main door and the outermost perimeter gate are of bank-grade security. The renovation team leader assured us that even a large truck ramming into it wouldn't cause damage. I'm not entirely sure about this claim, but it certainly feels secure. The rooftop is fully equipped with solar panels. Although our city doesn't have long hours of sunlight, the energy generated is sufficient to power all electronic locks within the villa. Any excess power can be used for ordinary electrical appliances. Judy mentioned that on the third day of the apocalypse, red fog would drift in the sky, but having some power is better than none. The swimming pool was fitted with a filter system, transforming it into a water reservoir. Rainwater flows directly into the pool and can be purified with the adjacent filters for non-drinking purposes like irrigation, bathing, and laundry. However, I hadn't anticipated that it would later turn into a large fish pond. We built a soundproof shed in the front garden to house small animals, while the backyard was used for cultivation. Initially, Judy and I planned to turn the basement into a cold storage for frozen meat, but considering the electricity costs, we reluctantly abandoned the idea. The second level of the basement was designated for storing gasoline generators and fuel, serving as our backup power source. Although diesel would have been cheaper, we opted for gasoline to reduce noise during operation. The second floor was designated for living and entertainment, currently featuring a movie theater, a gym, and a tool room. The third and fourth floors were organized to store various other miscellaneous supplies. Our goal was to fill the villa to capacity. During the renovation, I investigated supply procurement points, and Judy supervised the work. To avoid suspicion, we continued attending classes. Fortunately, being in our senior year meant fewer classes, so it wasn't too exhausting. When building the villa, people did ask what we were doing, wondering why we were transforming a perfectly good villa in such a way. Regarding this, I could only helplessly shake my head at them, putting on a resigned expression, pointing upwards as if to say it was all the boss's arrangement, and that I was merely following orders. The head of the construction team nodded in empathetic agreement. As if deeply familiar with the boss's eccentric ideas, during this time, I managed to get the phone numbers of these skilled workers. A month later, the renovations and new appliances were installed, costing us $4 million. The purchase of decorations and fuel took a lot of our time. Some things can't just be bought with money, especially when you need to avoid drawing attention. We spent a substantial amount to leverage connections for acquiring containers that could safely store gasoline and diesel, and had my dad secretly transport them to the villa in a large truck. 10 tons of gasoline cost $11,000, but the containers to prevent leaks were expensive, including the specially constructed electrical circuits. The total cost came to $300,000. Oh, I almost forgot, when my dad went to get the qualification certificate, smoothing things over with connections cost about $200,000. Originally, Judy and I planned to get everything ready before calling our family, but soon realized this approach wouldn't work. If we wanted to keep our actions under wraps, we needed our family's help. However, our family clearly wouldn't believe the real story about the end of the world, so I told them I found a part-time job. There was a foreign boss in J City with a secret entertainment project needing agile workers who couldn't understand English, because it was confidential. The pay was exceptionally high, $30,000 a month for just 3 months. My dad, who drives trucks, and my mom, who runs a small shop in the village, quickly packed their bags and took the high-speed train. My brother George also came. He'd been struggling with his job at home, and upon hearing the news, asked if I could talk to the boss so he could join too. He would resign immediately if he got the chance. I hesitated for show, then messaged him back saying the boss agreed. George was quick to act. Arriving on the same train as our parents, Judy's parents were a bit of a problem, though. Her mom, a tenured teacher, couldn't just come for the quick cash, but her dad promptly took a 3-month-long leave from his company. In the second month, we officially began procuring supplies. The first item we bought was water. My dad and I drove the truck to a previously scouted budget mineral water factory. Each 550 milliliters bottle cost $0.3, and we bought 600,000 bottles, requiring 2 truck trips to haul them all. Initially planning to store the water on the first floor, my dad suggested that the weight might be too much for the house to handle. Not totally understanding but trusting my modest high school physics knowledge, I thought my dad made sense. so we stored most of the water in the basement closest to the ground. The water cost 180000. Meanwhile, my brother went to buy a Land Rover and had it modified. I told him, it didn't matter if it was ugly. The boss was nuts, obsessed with imagining a biohazard crisis. The more the car was suited to survive an apocalypse, the more the boss would like it, and the likelier he would hand out bonuses. Grinning, my brother eagerly went to look at the cars. Judy, holding a supermarket operation license, went with her dad to buy food at a supermarket warehouse. According to her, the supermarket manager kept looking at them as if caring for the intellectually disabled. Hey! If it wasn't for the need to legitimately purchase sugar, we wouldn't have bothered with the license, but perhaps it was this license that made the manager think they were intellectually disabled. After all, we could have sourced cheaper elsewhere. However, we didn't have the time to slowly search for suppliers. Supermarkets are indeed convenient. Rice, 50 kilograms per bag, vacuum-packed, 400 bags, priced at $60,000. Flour, 50 kilograms per bag, vacuum-packed, 400 bags, priced at $48,000. White sugar, 50 kilograms per bag, vacuum-packed, 200 bags, priced at $40,000. Peanut oil, rapeseed oil, and corn oil, 400 barrels of each, priced at $32,000. Canned fruits, apples, bayberries, yellow peaches, cherries, strawberries, pears, lychees, hawthorns, grains, peanuts, red beans, mung beans, black beans, soybeans, white beans, canned meats, pork, lamb, beef, chicken, condiments, a variety of soy sauces, rice seasonings, salts, vacuum-packed milk powder, chocolates, candies, various dried goods, black fungus, mushrooms, dried bamboo shoots, sea kelp, lilies, red dates, chicken mushrooms, various instant foods, instant noodles, self-heating rice, self-heating hot pot base, hot pot ingredients. Judy bought a comprehensive selection. Simply put, she bought whatever the supermarket had. I only glanced at the staple foods. Spending $2 million on food seems a bit excessive, with most of it going toward snacks. Although the staples appear numerous, they are actually not expensive. Judy also specifically bought several freezers to store fresh meat. After reviewing the food list, George messaged me that he had chosen 3 vehicles and was only short of funds for modifications. I quickly transferred $2 million to him after seeing the prices and modification plans. Once everyone was nearly done with their tasks, Judy and I took my mom shopping at the mall, buying a variety of clothes, both stylish and practical, for summer and winter, for men and women. After the mall, we visited the supermarket where we bought a large quantity of toilet paper, sanitary pads, toothpaste, toothbrushes, shower gels, shampoos, and during our walk through the pet section, we also picked up about 100 large bags of cat litter. For the first time, I felt like I had more money than I could spend, with over $10 million still left. So, using employee welfare as an excuse, I took the whole family for a comprehensive medical checkup, including Judy's mom, under the guise of reimbursement. Though she didn't come to J City, fortunately, the 3 of us were very healthy. Though our parents had a few chronic conditions, we directly asked the doctor for the best medications. My mom and I then went to the pharmacy to buy extra medication for chronic diseases, besides the usual medications. We also stocked up on various antibiotics, vitamins, medicines for colds, fevers, stomach issues, and skin diseases. We also bought plenty of supplies for treating injuries, such as alcohol, gauze, hemostatic bandages, and more. We visited several pharmacies in nearby villages where drug regulations are less strict and bought everything we needed. Judy, my brother, and I also bought 4 projectors, 15 laptops, 15 tablets, 15 external hard drives, 20 USB drives, 2 Iridium phones, 3 radios, and several of our favorite mobile phones each, filling the external drives with games and the USB drives and tablets with novels and TV series. We also bought 7 treadmills and set up a complete set of gym equipment on the 2nd floor of our house. We also prepared many tools, including watermelon knives, compound bows, various military knives, baseball bats, the physics holy sword, hose, axes, lighters, and screwdriver sets, to be prepared for any unexpected repairs. Judy also purchased a lot of fertilizers and a substantial amount of chemical reagents and apparatuses. This part, I'm not too familiar with, as Judy studied chemistry, and I'm just a weak liberal arts student, We spent a month and a half shopping and moving things. In just 2 months, I became numb to money. It's hard to say if we spent the money slowly. We've already spent about 14 million. Yet there's still over 6 million left in the account. Had I known, I wouldn't have scrimped so meticulously. We've been ordering luxurious takeout for every meal every day, and I'm almost sick of it. In the last half-month, we started to inventory our supplies and create Excel sheets to avoid having too much stuff and not being able to find what we want later. You could say the villa is packed full. I even found 10 unnecessary egg cookers while taking inventory, finally, while we were contemplating if there was anything else we needed. My mom said she needed to take out the trash and asked if we were coming. Judy and I looked at each other. Taking out the trash? Now that we have the supplies, how do we handle the trash? Incineration? Too obvious, and it smells. Bury it on the spot. This piece of land is so small that we're struggling to fit all the supplies, and now we're supposed to fit garbage too. It's a disaster. We've even planned for the water stoppage and toilet use, but we didn't think about garbage disposal. Eventually, our solution was to encircle the villa on the downwind side with a garbage dump, 3 meters high and 0.7 meters wide. Although this one doesn't have a steel plate in the middle, we enclosed about 70 square meters. To dispose of the trash, we first exit the inner circle, walk up the stairs to the outer wall, and then head to the dump. We've even spent a good amount of money to have someone build a medium-sized catapult. When the dump fills up, we'll catapult the trash out, just in case. We also bought an incinerator as a backup. I transferred $200,000 to my brother as a reward for the last time he looked at cars and told him that our quirky boss loves these doomsday survival games. With just 15 days until completion, I asked him to find ways to further improve the villa. If money is an issue, I told him to let me know, and I'll apply for more. My brother was probably skeptical. Ever since he bought that Land Rover, he'd been subtly inquiring if something was up. I didn't know how to explain this baseless concern to him, so I just laughed it off, urging him to adopt an end-of-the-world mindset towards our current collection of supplies. I don't know what my brother was thinking, but he looked serious as he patted my head and asked, after this, "Can we stay here?" Maybe he sensed that something big was about to happen. Why else would anyone hoard so much? I reassured him, of course we can stay. That's the whole point of our efforts. But I didn't tell him that I was the fool in charge. In the remaining days, my brother, along with our parents and Judy's father, studied copies of the Barefoot Doctor's Manual, Militia Training Manual, and The Friend of Military and Civilian Talents that he bought online. They carefully read through them to identify and fill any gaps, buying whatever seemed missing. Meanwhile, Judy and I took the chance to tidy up some things at school. Honestly, there wasn't much to tidy since our doomsday fortress had everything. With half a month to go until the supposed end of the world, the dump was still under construction but expected to be completed in just a few days, thanks to a hefty payment. Someone had also built us a catapult. Everything was ready, and I believed that even if doomsday really came, we'd be well prepared. Logically, we shouldn't have returned to school, especially in our senior year when taking a long break wouldn't be a problem. But Judy said that after imagining the apocalypse, she really wanted to experience the lively, peaceful campus once more. As for me, I didn't really feel the reality of it. The apocalypse, though supposedly close, less than 15 days away, still felt distant to me. I was willing to spend $20 million to build a fortress with Judy in the suburbs mainly because I trusted her. Judy suffers from depression and has had her low moments. To me, even if the apocalypse is a myth, it doesn't matter as long as Judy is happy. Our friendship isn't just for show. Since I have the money, I'm willing to spend it to keep her entertained, and maybe later we could open a small supermarket or a doomsday-themed BB. Besides, the apocalypse, even if only seen in movies and novels, is known to be a grim scenario. I'd rather it just be a make-believe game for Judy and me. Will the apocalypse actually come? I leaned my head back, watching the teacher animatedly lecture at the front of the class, my thoughts drifting away. It's been 2.5 months since Kevin and I broke up, and he hasn't called me even once. As for me, busy with building the fortress and buying supplies, I of course wouldn't call him either. It's true what they say, you can't afford to be idle. Too much idle time leads to overthinking. Like right now, I really feel like calling Kevin. I pick up my phone, then set it down again. Never mind, why bother? It's hard to find a three-legged frog, but two-legged men are everywhere. Besides, I'm now a millionaire, a small but wealthy woman. After class, I returned to my empty dorm room. Everyone was either interning or on a date. I packed up the things Kevin gave me, pulled my suitcase, and went to get 2 new SIM cards. Afterward, I sent a WeChat message in the family group, and texted those not in the group, sharing a tip that due to various unmentionable reasons, the prices of food and water might rise in half a month. I advised them to stock up on storable food and bottled water, and to avoid going out too much during the holidays. There were skeptics questioning where I got my information. I replied bluntly, believe it or not, but my source is confidential. Only because I'm close to my friend did I get this tip. I included a picture of me and my mom with a shopping cart, and my dad holding rice. Before any relatives could respond, my dad called me first, asking about the message I sent. I told him that something is indeed going to happen in half a month, though I'm not clear on the details, but it's just taking a day off. What harm could it do? After thinking it over, he asked if our recent activities were also related to this matter. I hummed affirmatively and reminded him that I had told them to keep these matters confidential. He acknowledged and then hung up the phone. Later, I saw a message from my dad in the group. Listen to her, her classmate knows something substantial, it's mostly true, and taking a day off is no big loss. After warning the relatives, and giving them half a month to stock up, I began messaging people I know with the new SIM cards. Whether they believe it or not is beyond my concern now. Initially, I considered buying someone else's card to avoid being accused by officials of spreading rumors and disturbing public order, but then I thought, if they really wanted to catch me, using someone else's card would just be fooling myself. After all, my main point was just to emphasize staying home or being cautious on June 12th. Writing it too alarmingly wouldn't be believable anyway. Whatever, if things go south, I can still rely on my financial ability to hire a lawyer. I opened all the social media apps I had played with on my phone, registered new accounts with the new phone number, and posted prophetic and survival strategy posts. On June 12th, an unprecedented event will occur, affecting the whole world. I can't disclose specifics as a time traveler, but if possible, please stock up on food and water at home, and do not go out on June 12th. I paid for some online promoters to keep these posts popular. I've done what I can, now all that's left is to wait. Just as I was about to head back, after much deliberation, I decided to call Kevin after all, to get him to prepare as well. After all, we were in love, although it didn't last. We parted on good terms. I might as well help if I can. Beep beep beep. The phone rang a few times. Just as I began to wonder if Kevin had blocked me, he picked up. Hello, what's up? It was Kevin, his voice still as pleasant as ever, though now a bit hoarse. Well, he has been chasing Sarah for 2.5 months without success, probably a bit frustrated. The idea that Kevin is pursuing Sarah bothers me a bit, but I still managed to tell him calmly not to wander around on June 12th, half a month from now, especially not on the first workday after the holiday. I insisted that he should stay home and stock up on food and drinks. On the phone, Kevin was very quiet. He chuckled lightly. Did you read that online? It's all just for fun. Why do you believe it? Last time, we even saw someone claiming that the flu virus could cause mutations. Why would you believe rumors now? I pursed my lips. Of course, I didn't believe it last time, although I don't want to believe it this time either. I'm the one who started the rumor. All I said was, why not just stock up on some tasty and long-lasting food and drinks at home? It's not just for that day anyway, you'll be able to eat them later too. Promise me that you'll stay in a place with few people that day. Okay, my tone gradually shifted from firm to pleading. I don't want Kevin to die, at least not so quietly and unnoticed. Kevin sighed. All right, I can manage that. I have to go now. I've got something to handle. I'm not sure if it was my imagination, but did I just hear a nurse calling out for a change of dressing? June 11th, around 10 p.m., I just got back from outside. I'm staying in this fortress, which seems pretty secure, with my parents, my brother, Judy, and Judy's dad. Judy's mom still hasn't shown up. She's stubborn and headstrong but a responsible teacher. No matter how much we urged her to come over by June 12th, she refused, insisting on preparing revision materials for her 11th grade students during the holiday. We invited her repeatedly, but she wouldn't come and even ended up scolding Judy harshly. Judy just let her mom rant over the phone without showing any emotion. She only advised her mom to stock up on food and water at home and to stay safe. Before hanging up, Judy laughed wryly. It's okay if she doesn't come. She's a good teacher but not necessarily a good mother. I've done what I could as a daughter. I know Judy had already sent a bunch of supplies home, and the school had sent quite a bit too. Judy's mom had criticized her for these, calling it a waste of money and embarrassing. I called the social media influencer to promote my latest post. The message was something like, I had a premonitory dream that a zombie apocalypse will break out tomorrow. Please avoid crowded places. What could happen in the 3 months before the apocalypse? Few of the comments believed it. Which new series is this hyping? They're really going all out. I saw similar posts on other websites a few days ago. Seriously, they're spending big money. Wonder how the promotion behind this will pan out. Actually, I'm quite looking forward to it. I turned off my phone and sighed. I couldn't blame them for their disbelief. I wasn't entirely convinced myself. Judy didn't stop me from posting like a madman in these last few days or from throwing flyers around the streets tonight. She just shrugged and said to me, it's a waste of effort. No one will believe it. The flyers listed what I believed could happen in the 3 months before the end, the same content I had sent to the authorities. I printed about a few thousand flyers, creating quite a bit of litter around the city tonight, hoping they wouldn't all be swept away by the cleaners the next day. I had made up my mind. If the apocalypse really did start tomorrow, these flyers could save lives, and with a zombie crisis underway, no one would be around to arrest me. If it turned out to be false, and I got arrested, I'd just undergo a psychiatric evaluation. It wasn't a big deal, just seemed a bit crazy. At most, I'd be detained for a few days. The money I had left should be enough to hire a good lawyer to bail me out, but soon, my doubts were dispelled. It started to rain outside. Initially very lightly, through the thick glass. It was barely visible. I opened the heavy window and reached out my hand. Only when the rain hit my hand did I see the color of the water. Judy was right. The apocalypse was real. The rain outside gradually grew heavier. I drew back my hand, now stained bright red, and said to Judy, look, Judy, it's really raining. After that, I suddenly felt dizzy, and the last thing I saw was Judy rushing towards me with wide eyes and a look of panic. When I woke up, I found myself bound hands and feet, lying on a bed. People from the fortress gathered around. Judy glanced at her watch and said, awake now, you've been unconscious for almost 36 hours. I was stunned and managed to say, was the rain the other night toxic? Judy rolled her eyes and didn't respond. My mom sat by my bed, closest to me. She checked my forehead and sighed in relief. The fever has gone down. Hearing this, my brother stepped forward and cut the ropes binding my hands and feet. I craned my neck, asking, how about now? Judy poked my forehead, saying, no big issue. Among the 6 of us, you were the only one nearly turned into a zombie. Everyone around seemed to understand Judy's comment without confusion. Apparently she had already explained the situation to them. I muttered in disbelief, so it's really happening. Judy grabbed a tablet, casually pulled up a live stream from a video platform, and turned the screen towards me. Welcome to the apocalypse, she announced. Giant green vines clung to towering buildings, beneath which zombies with bizarre walking postures, as if their joints were dislocated, roamed. The streets were littered with disarrayed bloodstains. A zombie wearing a red dress and pretty curly hair, clearly she had been beautiful before, suddenly looked up. Her complexion was pale green and her eyes cloudy. She let out a raspy roar and slowly walked towards a car parked by the roadside, her movements visibly becoming more agile. She then repeatedly slammed her head against the car window. This noise quickly attracted other zombies roaming the streets. They swarmed the car, attacking it, and soon, a woman who was struggling and screaming was dragged out through the shattered window. A dozen zombies tore at her, and as her cries and struggles diminished, the zombies, as if sensing her death, gradually dispersed, leaving behind a corpse severely mutilated. Soon enough, this body slowly rose from the ground and joined the army of zombies that had killed her. The live stream camera shook, showing the holder's immense fear. Suddenly, the screen went black, and when it lit up again, it was inside a well-decorated office with the door firmly closed. The office's frosted glass showed vague shadows moving outside. The camera switched to the front-facing one, and a young man appeared. He took several deep breaths, his voice trembling as he spoke. Help me, what should I do? There are zombies outside my office. His expression suddenly turned to panic, possibly because the sound of his voice had attracted the zombies outside. Continuous pounding sounds and the noise of breaking glass could be heard. Before the man could react, he looked down at his chest in shock. A vine of some unknown plant had brutally pierced his heart. The vine, stained with blood, slowly moved closer to the camera. getting closer and closer, accompanied by a snapping sound, and the live stream screen went black. On the nation's largest public internet platform, the post was true. The apocalypse has really come, don't panic. The military has been dispatched. I regret not believing that post, even though I saw it on more than one platform. I believed it and stocked up on supplies at home. My parents said I was wasting money. Now the three of us are waiting for rescue at home. I also stocked up, but some mutations aren't only from zombie bites. My dad had a fever today. My mom took a leave to care for him, and when he woke up, he bit her. My mom took my dad and left the house. What should I do? My younger brother is still at school. How can I save him? Why didn't the person who posted this warn the government earlier? You can try to save yourselves. If you have family members who can't make it home, try using an alarm to distract the zombies, but be careful with elevators. We live on the second floor. My wife is a chef, she said after she killed her colleague who turned into a zombie with a kitchen knife. She immediately drove back, but be careful, some places had car accidents. And if you get stuck on the road, you're dead. Did anyone find a yellow flyer? It says the internet will be shut down 3 days after the apocalypse starts, and water, electricity, and gas will be gone in 7 days. If you can, you should quickly prepare supplies. What exactly is going on? Those who have plants at home, be careful, they might mutate. The rescue teams have been deployed. We might be saved. They are armed. This disaster might not last too long, damn. What is this thing? Upload a picture. Our local rescue team was wiped out by it. Oh my god, I've never seen such a big snake in my life. My cat seems to have mutated too, but it doesn't seem to want to harm me. It even brought food home from outside. The exit route from J City on the highway is completely blocked. I thought I could escape since I was so close to the highway, but the exit was blocked by dense vines. I'm probably going to die too. Goodbye to this ridiculous world. I set down the tablet. The chaos outside was much worse than I had anticipated. Can you get through to the police? I asked. Line's busy, my brother replied, gesturing with his phone in hand. I turned to Judy. Do you know how high the natural mutation rate is? Judy shook her head. No idea. We haven't gotten much news lately, and the radio hasn't mentioned it, but it's probably not low. The initial infection rate greatly affects the speed of subsequent transmission, which suggests that the situation is quite severe, but it's no longer my concern. I've done enough. I'm just an ordinary person without special abilities. That's enough. Yes, that's right, it's enough. My brother George and I used a telescope to survey our surroundings. Many mutated plants had appeared near our stronghold, but these plants were not very aggressive, at least for now. We hadn't found any with poisonous vines or sharp thorns. Using the cameras, we checked the soundproof greenhouse in the garden where our livestock, 4 roosters, 6 hens, 2 drakes, 2 ducks, a pair of geese, a pair of cows, and 10 rabbits, showed no signs of mutation. We breathed a sigh of relief. Judy put down the remote control, closed its lid, and stored it in a wooden box. That was the button for the bomb. My brother and Judy, both science students, had reportedly made it themselves using some kind of agricultural fertilizer nitrate mixed with sugar. If the greenhouse were to mutate, we'd have to blow it up immediately. I still occasionally followed the news, and contrary to my expectations, the related news online hadn't been suppressed. I thought about it and figured it was probably because this incident was purely a natural disaster, a global zombie crisis affecting everyone. Not just a local issue. Suppression was pointless, people weren't blind. Later, I stopped watching the news. After all, it was only about death. University X has fallen. I thought about the news I saw this morning. I wondered how many people in the school had seen the messages I posted in various groups, and of those who saw them, how many were prepared. Was my action genuinely helpful to them, or did it just add to their frustration? Never mind, soon. I no longer had the dilemma of wanting to check the news but forcing myself not to. On the third day of the apocalypse, at 6 a.m., a faint red mist slowly condensed in the air. Visibility decreased, but not severely. Accompanying this unsettling red fog, the network communications went down. The pervasive red outside was disconcerting, so we simply drew the curtains and entertained ourselves indoors. My mom took up cooking and watching dramas. A fantastic hobby since the food stored in the freezer would spoil if not eaten. My dad and Judy's dad spent their days playing chess. When not playing, they'd garden or tend to the chickens, ducks, and rabbits. If they got too bored, they would go fishing in the swimming pool, which also had lotuses thankfully unaffected by mutations. Judy, George, and I had even fewer constraints. No one scolded us for waking up at 10 a.m. We would read novels, play games, and watch movies right after waking up. With my mom handling meals and my dad and Judy's dad busy with chores, they actually preferred us not to help. They were so restless that they needed to keep themselves busy. The fifth day of the apocalypse, 10 a.m., Judy and I got up, and while my mom was cooking, our dads were busy with woodworking. As for my brother, he was still sleeping after playing Resident Evil until 3 a.m. last night. I said to him, "We're practically in a real-life Resident Evil scenario. Couldn't you switch to another game?" He replied, "You don't understand, I'm gaining experience from this." For lunch, we had steak. My mom has been so engrossed in watching the drama Empresses in the Palace lately that our recent meals have become somewhat perfunctory. I took a rabbit from the soundproof shed to play with. Even though it's part of our emergency food supply, the fluffy rabbit really has a soothing effect. I took the rabbit with me, feeling quite cheerful. As I went up to the roof to observe the surroundings through a telescope, our villa is excellently located, no villages in front, no shops behind, and we've barely seen any zombies around, probably because we always make sure to keep quiet. The money spent on soundproofing wasn't wasted. Even if we sang karaoke, no one outside could hear us. After a walk, Judy, George, and I played cards, deciding that the loser would take out the garbage for a day. In the end, Judy was doomed to take out the trash for 10 days, and George for 32 days, day 7 of the apocalypse. Logically, today should be the day when water, electricity, and gas supplies are cut off. We've been drinking water stored in tanks, which we had tested by a rabbit beforehand. Bathing wasn't as thorough. We used the rabbit for testing, waited half an hour, and then proceeded. But today we couldn't do that since the utilities were expected to stop, and while electricity and gas weren't critical, the water supply was likely to be problematic. I collected some tap water in a cup and gave it to the rabbit. Half an hour later, its hind legs twitched, and then it stopped moving. I immediately informed my family that the tap water was no longer safe, although we had stored some for flushing the toilet. 3 hours later, the water supply stopped. It looks like the water was contaminated, and that's why the water plant stopped the supply, Judy said. George scratched his head. That means someone is still operating the water plant, otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to stop the supply so quickly after the contamination. Then why would the electricity and gas stop? I wondered. George and Judy looked at each other and simultaneously said, "Mutant plants." Maybe mutant plants blocked the water and electricity outlets. After all, 80% of Jay's city's electricity is hydropowered. As for the gas, it might have been shut down due to lack of maintenance. George speculated. That made sense. I looked at the few sparse saplings outside our fortress, which now looked like a wall. If mutant plants had invaded the hydroelectric plant, it was normal for the power to go out. While we were discussing, the incandescent light in the room flickered and went out. "Ah, the electricity is out too," I remarked. Judy stretched and stood up. "Let's go. Call our dads and figure out how to generate electricity with the generator," I agreed. Packed the rabbit that had been sacrificed today from the rabbit cage into a delivery box, preparing to bury it at the dump later. I also patted the still sleeping rabbit, Little White, in the cage. Different fates for different rabbits, just like people. Day 10 of the apocalypse. Today, the natural gas was also cut off. Luckily, we had stockpiled plenty of liquefied gas and bought an induction cooker, so our meals were unaffected. As for water, the well water is still drinkable. At least the rabbit didn't die from it, so our drinking water situation hasn't reached the point where we need to rely heavily on bottled water yet, but flushing the toilet has become a bit of a hassle as we have to haul buckets of water up the stairs. The 6 of us spent the first 10 days of the apocalypse rather uneventfully. According to Judy, in her previous life, L City had turned into a wasteland of steel ruins, enormous unidentified plants entwined around skyscrapers, causing more than half of the buildings to collapse over time due to the plant's growth. Even without Judy mentioning it, I knew from movies and novels that the first thing to collapse after the apocalypse would be the monetary system. Money had turned into worthless paper, but indeed, it was under the remaining influence of money that we were able to live so comfortably. Overall, other than my dad insisting on cooking his own meal, which unfortunately led to a bout of diarrhea, causing a bit of a stir, there were no further incidents. If only life could continue this calmly. Unfortunately, life is always full of buts. On the 11th day of the apocalypse, I was lying in bed, chuckling over a novel. Suddenly, Judy burst into my room, announcing that 2 cars had just driven past on the road. That wasn't the main point. The key detail was that a small horde of zombies was following behind the cars. I cursed under my breath, having anticipated such an event, but after so many calm days, the sudden occurrence still threw me off balance. We hurried to the 4th floor with a telescope to observe the situation. The 2 cars eventually stopped near a villa a short distance away. I knew the villa. A relatively young retired couple lived there. Their daughter, having recently divorced, had returned home with her child for a few days. After our warning, they should have some food reserves, but it was uncertain how long they could last. 2 men got out of the cars, one younger and the other looking in his 40s. They knocked on the door, glancing back at the distant zombies from time to time. From our telescope, it appeared there were a few more people inside the cars. An elderly man soon came out of the house and spoke through the fence, probably urging them to come inside. The elderly man kept shaking his head and pointed in our direction, saying something. "Old man, we have no quarrel with you, why are you pointing at our villa?" The men grew increasingly anxious, talking hurriedly, and just as the elderly man was about to open the gate, a woman came out from the villa, pulled her father back, and they seemed to erupt into a heated argument. The woman eventually pulled her father back inside. As the zombies neared, they had no choice but to leave. The middle-aged man opened the trunk, took out a box of instant noodles and a box of mineral water, and left them at the villa's entrance before driving away. They headed straight in the direction of our fortress. Frowning, I used the walkie-talkie to message my dad. Dad, come in please. You and Uncle James go get a box of gasoline, a box of mineral water, and a box of instant noodles." My dad's voice came through the walkie-talkie. "Okay, you're a real saint," Judy remarked dryly. I replied, "How am I a saint? I just want to send them on their way, and hopefully, they'll take the zombies with them. I'd give these supplies to anyone, good or bad. The last thing we need is for them to linger at our doorstep and attract more zombies with the scent of blood. They probably have food in their vehicle, but in these times, who could have too much water or food? Besides, anyone willing to offer food and water to someone they've just argued with can't be all that bad." As their vehicle approached, I realized I actually knew these people. The passengers in the front seats of the 2 cars, who had just gotten out, looked familiar. Sitting in the driver's seats were Sarah, the school beauty, and Kevin, my boyfriend. My brother, holding the telescope, exaggeratedly marveled, "Wow, that beauty can really drive. That drift was impressive. What are you doing?" My brother screamed in pain. Judy elbowed him. I glanced at George with a faint smile, true to being brothers. He naturally sticks his elbow out, but to be fair, that was a really smooth move. "What should we do? Kevin is also up there. Should we let them in?" Judy asked me. I felt like my worth had vanished the moment the apocalypse began. Since my main asset was money, now money is useless, and what can I, a psychology student who can't lift or carry much, really do? Surprisingly, I still have quite a bit of influence in this fortress. Now, this influence is weighing heavily on me. Putting other things aside, I am quite petty, so I'm not too keen on seeing Sarah and Kevin being affectionate right under my nose, but I can't just watch them die, especially knowing they are good people, especially Sarah. She's genuinely kind-hearted. I remember when the counselor handed out scholarships to favored students instead of the truly needy. Sarah was the first to stand up against it. After much deliberation, I picked up the walkie-talkie. Dad, if you hear me, reply and add some canned luncheon meat for them." "Dad, okay," Judy teased me. "Ex-boyfriends really are different, even getting an extra box of luncheon meat." George perked up his ears, surprised. "What boyfriend? You had a relationship and didn't tell me." I looked blank. "Are you deaf? He's an ex-boyfriend. We broke up 3 months ago. I didn't want to break up, but love is a two-way street. Can I really force someone to love me?" Sigh. I thought after all this time, I'd buried my memories of Kevin deep down in the graveyard of my memory palace. Unexpectedly, those dead memories are now coming back to haunt me. Feeling sorrowful, I picked up the walkie-talkie again. George exaggeratedly reacted. "What's wrong? Feel like that jerk doesn't deserve the luncheon meat." I gave him a look and spoke into the walkie-talkie. "Dad, there seems to be a classmate of mine among those people. Add a box of compressed biscuits for them and check where the multivitamins are. And if it's convenient, grab 2 bottles." There was a moment of hesitation on the other end. Okay. Then I heard my dad's voice through the walkie-talkie, help me find where I put the multivitamins. It seems Winnie's classmate is outside, my brother teasingly suggested. Looks like you're still hung up on him. Now that we're well off, why not invite him to be our son-in-law? I have to admit, I was shamefully tempted by the idea for a second, but, forget it, it would just be for survival. Not for me, and Kevin wouldn't do that. Even though we've broken up, I'm confident I still understand Kevin. He's not someone who would grovel just to survive. I straightened my collar and combed my hair, looking reasonably neat, ready to face Kevin. After all, this might just be our last goodbye. When I reached the outer wall, an unfamiliar uncle was knocking on the door, hoping we could help them by letting them in for shelter since their car had run out of fuel, even though zombies aren't fast. Driving attracts nearby roaming zombies, and several dozen zombies around our fortress were rapidly converging. It wouldn't take more than 5 minutes for them to reach us, not to mention the zombies following their car. My dad was lowering gasoline, instant noodles, luncheon meat, and compressed biscuits in a basket down the wall. It's not possible. Brother, the world is so dangerous right now and you have so many people. We just can't risk it. We understand. Thank you, Uncle. Having some gasoline already means a lot, not to mention the generous amount of water and food you've given us. We'll be on our way soon. I recognized the voice. It was Kevin. I was standing atop the city wall, secretly watching Kevin as he refueled the car. He looked significantly worn out, which irritated me a bit. Back when he used to stay up late working on projects, I often got mad at him for not taking care of himself. Whenever I got angry, he would obediently drink some milk and then brush his teeth before going to bed. But why should I be angry now? Exes are like passing clouds. When I think about it, in these apocalyptic times, being alive is what truly matters. Who cares about well-being anymore? Suddenly, I regretted my decision to come here. Was I just trying to show off in front of Kevin? Forget it. Why demean him and myself? Just then, my pupils dilated in shock. What was that? A dinosaur, a creature, towering over the zombies and resembling a dog, about 3 meters tall, was rampaging through the horde. It looked like it would reach us in minutes. In that moment, my mind raced. Then, I grabbed the walkie-talkie. Judy, bro, I'm thinking of letting them in. Judy responded, just let them in. When you mentioned repairing the outer wall, I knew this day would come. Those wooden cabins inside the wall were built for this, weren't they? I know you, George also said. Anyway, the grain and flour stored inside won't be finished and would just rot eventually. Having more people will make it livelier. With their agreement, I shouted to Kevin and the others, hurry, get in the car, I'm opening the gate now. Kevin and his group moved quickly. I removed the necklace hanging around my neck, which had one of the 2 buttons to open the outer wall gate. I carried it with me all the time as a necklace, and Judy had the other one. We always kept 2 copies of important keys, one with me and one with Judy. I entered the password on the necklace and pressed it. The outer wall, designed narrow at the top and wider at the bottom, had a cross-section shaped like an obtuse angle trapezoid. The gate, being the thinnest part of the entire wall, was not a weak point. It had 2 layers, one opened outward and the other inward, making it very sturdy. The only downside was that it opened slowly. Hurry, hurry, I never thought I'd see the day when I had to open the city gates. I initially planned for them to climb up a ladder, but I had just seen a child and an elderly man in the car. The creature seemed to have noticed the prey on this side too, speeding up. I was sweating coldly. If I couldn't close the gate before it reached the wall would be useless. Finally, the gate opened. Kevin and Sarah skillfully drove the car in, wasting no time. It was clear they were experienced drivers. I quickly shut the gate. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Just a second before the creature hit, the gate closed completely. Bang. Luckily, my dad and I had ducked in time. Otherwise, the fall would have been costly. We were lucky. This creature was not agile. It couldn't jump up here. Although I mentioned the wall was only 3 meters high, the actual defensive structure was that tall, with an additional meter or so designed like the Great Wall to prevent anyone from falling off. My dad and I walked down the stairs along the wall, and Kevin, Sarah, and their group of 7 got out of the car. Everyone looked pale. If the wall couldn't hold, we were all as good as dead. The creature outside kept slamming into the wall, and clouds of dust rose from the ground into the air. I whispered to my dad to head back first, as Judy and George were likely gearing up to flee from the garage. My dad glanced at me, hesitated to speak. I patted my dad's beer belly reassuringly. Don't worry, I'll be careful. I couldn't leave. it wasn't time to give up on this villa yet. Fortunately, just when I thought all was lost and it was time to flee, the creature stopped its assault. Crouching low, I climbed onto the city wall to check whether it had really left. A massive yellow eye with a vertical pupil stared intensely at me through a battlement notch. It hoisted its forelimbs onto the wall, elevating its entire body. It was at least 4 meters tall. Damn, I should have been more cautious and used the binoculars back at the villa. I held my breath, staying perfectly still. I had heard that some animals can only see moving creatures. I wondered if that would work here. Go away. Just go away, I muttered under my breath. Whether it was divine intervention or sheer luck, the creature slowly shifted its gaze, lowered its limbs, and began to move away. I exhaled a sigh of relief and collapsed on the spot. It took a while before I could muster the strength to walk back down the city wall. As I descended the stairs, I grabbed the walkie-talkie. It's safe now. Where are you guys? Judy responded. It's safe. We're coming out from the garage now. That was the plan. Meet up in the garage if anything went awry. Don't wait, just go. Don't wait for me or try to save me. Missing the window meant risking everyone's life. The garage door would automatically close after 3 minutes if nobody pressed the close button again. There was still a chance we could return in the future. I touched the wall, which provided immense reassurance. Feeling endlessly grateful, the construction crew hadn't lied. The quality was indeed top-notch. I wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. Between the outer and inner walls was a roughly 6-meter-wide irregular ring, where I had the construction team build 8 small cabins. These cabins could not only accommodate us but also those we rescued. It takes up to 3 days from infection with the zombie virus to full transformation, so these cabins also served as isolation units. I glanced at Kevin with mixed emotions, observing the 7 people disembarking from the vehicle, but before I could figure out how to start the conversation, Sarah spoke up. Are you Winnie? Do you remember me? We once applied for a scholarship for Lee together. Thank you for saving us. Then, 2 people descended from the inner wall, bags slung over their shoulders. Judy and my dad. I hurried over to Judy and whispered, "Why did you come down? Didn't we agree that one of us should stay in the villa for safety?" Since all the important keys were with Judy and me, we had to ensure at least one of us was safe. Judy waved her hand dismissively. Relax. I gave the keys to your brother. It's a perfect opportunity to ditch that jerk, and we weren't comfortable with you handling those 7 alone, especially in these apocalyptic times. Better safe than sorry. After speaking, Judy provocatively glanced at Kevin. How did you end up here? The answer came from one of the 2 men who had earlier gotten out of the vehicle, a middle-aged man. We came looking for my ex-wife's place. She's from J City. When we married, I bought her parents a small countryside villa for their retirement, and, about 4 kilometers ahead, I thought that despite being divorced for a year, there would still be some affection left between us, and since both our names were on the villa's deed, she might let us in. I never expected her to be so heartless. The man sighed, and the woman walking beside him, holding a little girl's hand, patted his shoulder to comfort him. My dad, who had been quiet until then, suddenly blurted out. Divorced for a year and already the child from a second marriage. Is this big, Dad? I called out to him, feeling the awkwardness. My dad tends to be overly devoted to his wife, and he probably found it a bit hard to swallow. The woman waved her hand shyly. Don't get the wrong idea. Summer is my daughter from my previous marriage. Although we knew each other before Jack got divorced, we only got together after his divorce. Jack, the man referred to, didn't take offense at my dad's comment. He introduced himself with a generous spirit. I'm Jack, a lecturer at B City Polytechnic. I came to J City to give a lecture at C University and couldn't believe we ended up not being able to return. This is my wife Tina, and my daughter Summer, who is 6 years old this year. This is my nephew Kevin. Although he mentioned he was a lecturer, giving lectures at C University suggested his role was quite significant. I looked at Judy, who studies at C University, wondering if she recognized him. Judy studied Jack carefully for a moment and then nodded at me. After Jack finished, Sarah stepped forward. I'm Sarah, a student at X University. This is my boyfriend Mandy, and his mentor, Professor Leo. Professor Leo and Mandy were familiar faces from the library, though I didn't know them well. Wait, Sarah has a boyfriend. I hadn't expected Kevin to be so bold. How did you all meet? Judy asked. Kevin explained, my uncle and Professor Leo are neighbors. When the apocalypse started, thanks to Winnie telling me to stock up on food and drinks at home, we were able to last this long in our complex. Sarah added, us too. Fortunately, we brought a lot of gifts to the professor that day, and with the food provided by Professor Jack and others from their balcony. We would have starved there otherwise, Jack continued, but we can't just sit back and exhaust our supplies. Staying in the complex was not wise. Gas stopped yesterday, so we agreed to leave J City for D City, the nearest military base. Perhaps things will be better there. But, how did you know 3 months ago that this situation would arise? This doesn't look like a makeshift shelter, he said, his gaze sharpening as he surveyed what looked like a well-fortified bastion. Jack had always appeared gentle and cultivated, but in that moment, he radiated a powerful presence that was quite intimidating. I felt like I was in an interrogation room, a bright light shining in my face, with Jack and Kevin sitting across from me, playing good cop, bad cop. What subject does this professor teach? I stammered, unable to speak clearly. Well, it's because I couldn't just reveal that Judy had been reborn. Judy squeezed my hand, comforting me, then stepped forward. It's because of me. I had a prophetic dream that in 3 months, the world would undergo drastic changes. Humans would turn into walking corpses, attacking each other, and every living person they could see, plants and animals, would mutate, making life in cities very difficult. At least, that was the case in J City in my dream, though I guess it's similar elsewhere. At that time, Winnie had just told me she was dumped by a jerk. Judy glanced sideways at Kevin, who touched his nose and turned away to avoid her gaze. I'm aware of his habit. He always acts this way when he's feeling guilty. She claimed she won 20 million again, which matched my dream, so I think the tragic future I dreamed about is likely to be true. That's why I told Winnie, and Winnie spent 20 million to build this apocalypse bunker. Just because of a vague dream, she was willing to spend 20 million on this bunker. Jack seemed skeptical. Kevin, on the other hand, looked as though he understood. I whispered, actually, it wasn't 20 million, it was only 15 million. Judy looked at them with an expression they couldn't comprehend. Why wouldn't I agree? Winnie and I have been friends since childhood. When I was a kid, I was kidnapped, and when I managed to escape, I broke my leg. Winnie carried me to safety. In middle school, when a deranged person was randomly attacking people in the street, I pulled her out of the way of the knife. Our friendship has been through life and death situations. Why shouldn't Winnie spend money to hang out with me? It seems that because we are somewhat familiar with these people. Judy, holding nothing back and with a glance at Sarah, began to sarcastically criticize Kevin. Winnie is such a wonderful person, deeply loyal and kind, both beautiful and good-hearted, and you want to break up with her just because another girl looks better. That's so superficial, probably out of respect for Sarah. Judy didn't mention Sarah by name, but Judy, you actually think Sarah is prettier than me? Our friendship is over. The others looked on with indescribable expressions, especially Sarah, whose disapproving gaze almost solidified into something tangible. Something seems off. Could it be that Kevin has some secrets? Oh, this cursed love brain of mine. Tina frowned and said, wait, Kevin, Kevin interrupted her. Aunt Tina, indeed, it was my fault. I fell for another girl. And that's why I broke up with Winnie. It was my mistake. Tina hummed thoughtfully, then fell silent. Kevin's attitude was too good, leaving Judy with no room to argue further. Angrily, she pulled me aside and said we should leave. Before being pulled away, I quickly said, the incubation period for the zombie virus is about 3 days. We can't be sure you haven't been infected. Please stay in the external cabin for these 3 days, and I'll bring you supplies later. We can talk about the rest later. The 7 of them kindly did not object. Back at the villa, I planned to ask my mom and Judy to help pack things to take to them. The cabin only had a bed, a table, and a stool, quite Spartan, but the bed was made, just a bit dusty. They should have water and food, so let's bring them some snacks and cat litter. As I was about to grab the cat litter, my mom stopped me and asked what my plan was with so many people. I thought for a moment and gathered everyone in the living room. Indeed, we never discussed what the future would hold. The 3 of us kids often talked together, but we hadn't communicated these plans with them, as our parents, despite appearing calm, were actually quite anxious. This was a good opportunity to discuss it. I said, Mom, if they want to stay, do you think we should let them? My mom hesitated for a while. I don't think so. We don't know them well. Who knows what they're really thinking? I replied. I actually know these people. Kevin is my ex-boyfriend, and I know his character well enough. As for Kevin's uncle and aunt, they seem decent, considering they left supplies for an ex-wife who had turned them away. I also know Sarah well. and Professors Mandy and Leo. I often see them at the library, Judy's dad said. But the supplies we have aren't enough to sustain 13 people for over a decade, and why should they freeload off us? My dad nodded in agreement. After all, they were just strangers. I looked at Judy and George, signaling for me to speak. Dad, Mom, Uncle, our supplies are indeed sufficient for the 6 of us to survive a long time in a post-apocalyptic world. In fact, if we consider sustainable development, it's feasible to support 13 people for 10 years, though it would require tightening our belts. But Judy, George, and I don't see it that way. We can't just hold up in one place. We've all seen how the zombies have evolved, from being slow and stiff at the beginning to chasing cars now, all within just 10 days. If the zombies evolve further later on, if a zombie siege or mutant flora and fauna were to strike again, our house wouldn't last long. We don't have firearms, and resources like water, electricity, and gas are limited. We can't survive indefinitely on these supplies alone, not to mention the risk of others discovering our intentions. Then there are these mutant animals. Just one of them almost brought our walls down, let alone, I didn't finish my sentence. So, at most, we'd need to leave within 3 to 5 years to find a safety camp established by the authorities. My mother was slightly panicked. What if these mutant plants and animals come back later? Judy reassured her, don't worry, Auntie, these creatures aren't brainless like zombies. They also seek benefits and avoid harm. Constantly attacking our fortress wouldn't be advantageous for them. My father questioned, if that's the case, why don't we move to a safety camp built by the authorities now? I glanced at my dad. Because it's the apocalypse, of course. I believe the authorities will definitely build safe camps, most likely in major political and economic centers to the east or in cities like Z and N, where the land is vast, sparsely populated, and resources are abundant. Also, these places have an inland climate, which probably means fewer mutant plants, as Judy mentioned that mutant plants tend to thrive in moist conditions. Alternatively, places like H Island or S Province, mostly surrounded by sea, would be ideal for establishing the first human-safe camp reclaiming the mainland. Military stationed areas are also promising. The Northeast has a solid industrial base and could be operational with some cleanup, but these are all possibilities. I can't confirm the exact location of any safe camps, and going there blindly is no different from suicide. And while I might take the risk alone, I can't do the same with you all. Even if a safe camp location is established, it would take time to set up order initially and it could be very chaotic. The dangers from other people could even be greater than from zombies. We don't need to take that risk, my brother added. In the future, once the situation is under control, the authorities will likely use heavy weapons to clear the area. Although this place is quiet and has fewer zombies, it also means it's less likely to be searched by safety teams. It would be terrible if we were accidentally overlooked, Judy commented. I actually think our fortress is quite noticeable from a helicopter. My mother pondered. So, you're planning to find teammates for our departure? I gave my mom a thumbs up. Exactly, it's a rare opportunity. They are all relatively familiar people with reliable characters, unlikely to cause harm. We don't know what kind of bizarre creatures we might encounter on the road. Having more people provides extra security, and I think Kevin looks quite pale. He's not in the best shape to travel and needs proper rest. I kept that thought to myself, though. In the end, we unanimously decided to let the 7 of them stay if they were willing. My brother and I went down from the inner wall carrying snacks and cat litter, and I asked my mom to cook some extra dishes tonight to take over to them. Of course, I had my own motives. Otherwise, I could have easily left the task to my dad. They used only 4 out of the 8 rooms available, Kevin in one, Jack, Tina, and Summer in another. Sarah and Mandy shared one, and Professor Leo had one. I went to Jack, Kevin, and their wooden cabin, while George visited Sarah and Professor Leo's homes. I arrived at Jack's cabin first, handed over the items, explained the use of the cat litter, and asked if they needed anything else. Summer, who received the snacks, thanked me sweetly. She's really adorable, well protected by Jack and Tina. Jack looked tenderly at Tina and Summer munching on snacks, then turned to us with a smile. No need for anything else. We're good as it stands. Before leaving, I asked Jack. Professor Jack, I wanted to ask, do you plan to continue heading west in 3 days, or would you like to stay? Tina and Summer, sitting on the bed, lit up with surprise and looked towards Jack, obviously not expecting that we were considering letting them stay. Jack glanced at his wife and daughter, hesitated for a moment, and then asked, "Why would you help us?" I shrugged. "It's all for one and one for all. Besides, I dated Kevin for a year, you know, although I think your ideas are great. Professor, it's still quite chaotic outside. I think it might be better to wait a while before moving on. The 6 of us have stockpiled quite a lot of supplies. Having a few more people to share meals with is manageable, and there's safety in numbers. But if you still want to leave, that's fine too. Just let us know what you need, and we can provide some support." Jack thought it over and then said, "Thank you, young lady. And there's no need to call me Professor, just call me Uncle Jack." I grinned. "All right then, I'll be going. Remember to come over to Kevin's place for dinner tonight." I then headed to Kevin's cabin. Kevin's place was a bit messy, which I only noticed after comparing it to the neatness of Jack's family's cabin. "It must be Tina's doing, Kevin." I called out his name, and the figure wiping the table stiffened. "What's up, Winnie?" Kevin put down the cloth. I jumped in front of him and dropped some items on his table. "Why did you break up with me?" "I felt there was an issue. What can I say? It's because I've fallen for Sarah," Kevin replied, somewhat impatiently avoiding my gaze. "You think I'm a fool. Sarah herself said she's been with her boyfriend for 3 years. You like being the third wheel." I was blabbering somewhat because I wasn't really sure how long Sarah had been dating, but it wasn't entirely nonsense. I had seen Sarah's boyfriend before, just not the current one. Anyway, it couldn't have been 3 years. But 3 years is nothing. It's not like they are married. Even marriages can end in divorce, and now it's practically the apocalypse. Kevin stubbornly said, "You're still lying to me. Aunt Tina already told me." "How long are you going to keep this up?" I was making that up. I had intended to ask, but their family atmosphere was so pleasant, I didn't want to intrude. "What did Auntie say?" Kevin gritted his teeth. "I just wanted to hear the truth from you." My eyes began to tear up. Kevin could never stand to see me cry before breaking up, though I wasn't sure if it would work now. "She said." I pretended to choke up, looking up at him with teary eyes. Kevin sighed heavily, tapping his forehead. "What she said is true. I have a tumor in my brain. No need to pretend anymore." Real tears started falling. I was heartbroken and cried uncontrollably. Kevin, in a panic, said, "Stop crying. It's me who's dying, not you. What are you crying for?" I turned away from him and continued crying. "Did you ever think about how I'd cope with our breakup?" Kevin put his arm around my shoulder. "Impossible. You're not that fragile." I pulled out a tissue, wiping my tears, and said agitatedly, "How would you know? Even though I really am not, couldn't you have just told me straight? If you had, it would have been me dumping you." I continued, "And then you said you liked Sarah. I've been wondering every day what I lack compared to Sarah, only to realize I don't measure up to her in any way. Are you doing this out of spite?" As I wept, I reached out and hugged Kevin. "I don't want you to die." Kevin managed a bitter smile. "I was planning to come back and pursue you if the surgery was successful. But where can I find a doctor to operate now?" I wiped my tears and grabbed Kevin's hand. "Kevin, would you want to be with me?" Kevin hesitated. "Don't hesitate. It's the end of the world. Can't we just live for the moment? Who knows? I might even die before you." Kevin flicked my forehead and said through gritted teeth, "Don't say such nonsense." I looked at Kevin unblinkingly. He sighed again, took my hands in his, and said earnestly, "I understand, Winnie. I like you. Do you want to be with me?" I smiled through my tears. "I do, now that you're my boyfriend. I still have to tell you that a 3-day quarantine is necessary." "Understood, girlfriend." That evening, my brother and I brought some food to Kevin's cabin. Earlier, my brother had told me that Sarah and her boyfriend, Professor Leo, both hoped to stay. That didn't surprise me, given the risks outside these days. After dinner, I asked my brother to leave first while I stayed behind in Kevin's cabin to chat. I brought him a power bank and a Kindle, then we played some games together. It was a bit boring, playing against the computer, but since I was holding us back, it was still challenging. I couldn't help but ask him, "When did you find out?" Kevin didn't stop his game. "I got the report the morning we broke up. The doctor said there's an unidentified substance in my brain, likely a tumor. But there's a chance it's not a tumor, right? Why did you go for the checkup in the first place?" I died in the game again and put down my phone. It was a health check organized by the company where I was interning. If it's not a tumor, then what is it? I felt impulsive on the day we broke up, but after several more tests, the results were the same. It's unlikely to be a false positive, so I went to the hospital for treatment. "Did you feel unwell before or after the treatment?" I pondered a possibility. after the treatment, I guess. The tests were inconclusive, so the hospital gave me some medication as a precaution. I only felt, are you suggesting it might not be a tumor? Kevin realized belatedly. I suspect that this apocalypse didn't start just a couple of weeks ago. It probably began 3 months ago. On what basis? No basis, just a woman's intuition. How about you stop taking that medicine then? I ventured. Kevin nodded indifferently. Sure. The doctor said the medicine was just to regulate my body. There's no option for surgery now anyway, so let's just stop. I took a deep breath. Now, I needed to conduct an experiment. It was day 12 of the apocalypse. I pulled out a compound bow, a chainsaw, and protective gear, and said to George and Judy, today, I want to see if there are any crystals in the zombies' brains. Judy, did you find anything like that in your past life? Judy shook her head. We were too busy running away to perform autopsies on zombies. I never thought you, of all people, who are scared of corpses, would go this far for Kevin, George quipped. Ah, the power of love. But, George scratched his head, if it's as you said, then maybe we don't need to worry about what's in his brain after all. I said, if there really are crystals, these things should be useful, right? Maybe we could even uncover the secrets behind the evolution of the zombies. George stretched lazily. I don't mind. Finally a chance to get moving. Although my brother wasn't great academically, he was a skilled fighter. Naturally, he had no objections to getting some physical activity, especially after I had asked him, what more could he want? Initially, my parents and Uncle James were somewhat against it, but I assured them there would be no danger, if we could find a safe camp. Perhaps we could even use these crystals as a token of allegiance. Which finally won their approval. What I didn't mention was that I figured if I could think of this, so could the people at the safe camp. The token of allegiance was just a bluff. After convincing my and Judy's parents, we shared the plan with Jack's family and Sarah's boyfriend, Professor Leo. Professor Leo was the first to agree. Being a biology professor, he had a keen interest in zombie mutations. It was unfortunate that he was home the day of the incident, otherwise he would have captured a couple of zombies for research in his team. Jack agreed as well, probably also worried about the time bomb in Kevin's brain. Sarah agreed too. The task was straightforward. First, Jack and I would shoot the zombies roaming nearby with bows and arrows from atop the city wall. Sarah would drive, while my brother and Sarah's boyfriend, dressed in protective gear and armed with machetes, would load the dead zombies onto the truck. My parents, Uncle James, Tina, and Kevin were tasked with digging pits outside the junkyard wall. My mom and Tina kept watch from atop the wall. Once everything was ready, Jack and I stood on the outer wall, aiming at the zombies with our bows. Jack, who had practiced archery before, complained about the bow's lack of professionalism. It was laughable. We couldn't afford a professional bow anyway. Soon, we had dealt with all the surrounding zombies. I put down the bow and arrow, opened the city gate, and let Sarah drive out. After several trips, they brought back the bodies of the zombies. Are they completely dead? Sarah looked uneasy, understandably, since the bodies were truly disgusting. I donned protective gear and gloves, picked up a chainsaw, and severed their heads. Now they should be completely dead. Professor Leo also wore protective gear. He was responsible for the hearts. Taking a deep breath, I solemnly said, spread out. I'm starting. Using the chainsaw to open the zombies' skulls. I expected a foul smell, but there was none. These bodies seemed to have stopped decomposing and didn't emit much odor. Indeed, with the heart stopped and no blood circulation, something else must be driving the zombies' activities. The zombies' brains were grayish-white. Stirring with a glass rod, I found no foreign objects, after dissecting 10 bodies with no findings. I looked at Professor Leo, who shook his head. Jack, George, Sarah, and Mandy went to move the bodies, placing the dissected zombies on the outer wall to be buried later in the pits dug by my father and the others. I encouraged myself to keep going. There were still more than a dozen left. I swiftly cut open the remaining zombies' skulls with the chainsaw. Nothing, 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 and then, success. In this batch, I found 4 marble-sized crystals. I washed the 4 crystals clean with water. The crystals varied in shade but were generally translucent light blue. Out of 24 bodies, we extracted 4 crystals, averaging 1 crystal per 6 people. Could these mutated plants and animals have them too? I pondered, eyes downcast, unsure of their use. I stored them in test tubes first, then I joined the others to carry the bodies. 24 unknown, nameless zombies, now forever left here. Day 13 of the apocalypse. Kevin, having stopped his medication, visibly regained his vitality. I concluded that taking medication without being sick can indeed lead to serious consequences. Just look at what happened to this fine young man. Just kidding. My real conclusion is that whatever's in Kevin's brain must be similar to what's in a zombie's brain. Has Kevin evolved, though? It doesn't seem like it. I asked him if he could use any elemental powers like wind, fire, thunder, or lightning. Kevin pondered for a moment and then shook his head, saying he felt nothing. I then suggested he try telekinesis, but that was a no-go as well. What use are you? You can't do this or that. Something felt off. If this thing has emerged, it must have a purpose. We just don't know what it is yet. Kevin innocently blinked. I can still eat, and deliciously so. I gave one of the pearls extracted from a zombie's brain to Professor Leo, hoping he could analyze it, but as far as I'm concerned, apart from feeling cold to the touch, that pearl seems useless. Day 15 of the apocalypse, quarantine is over, and the 7 of them can move in now: Judy, Sarah, Tina, Summer, and I went to check on our stored food supply. No, I mean our adorable pets. It's really nice to be around the girls, so lovely indeed. Summer adores the little bunnies. No one can resist those cute creatures. Tina and I are fond of the 2 cows. Riding on their backs when bored is quite fun. Sarah, most impressively, knows how to handle the 2 geese that for some reason really hate Judy. I can pet them, but every time Judy comes near, the geese nag at her. This time was no different, but when the geese charged, Sarah grabbed each by the neck, making Judy wince. Such a terrifying woman. After that, the geese stopped targeting Judy and started going after Mandy. Every time the geese chased Mandy, Sarah laughed the loudest. Now we have a problem. There are only 8 vacant rooms in this villa. My parents, Judy, my brother, and Judy's dad occupy 5. That leaves 3 rooms. Jack, Tina, and Summer could share a room. The professor gets 1 room. Sarah and Mandy share another, and Kevin gets 1, making a total of 9 rooms needed. I plan to clear out the entertainment room for Kevin to sleep on the sofa. Judy asked me what I was up to, and I told her I was preparing a room for Kevin. Judy said, "Why go through all that trouble? Just share a room with Kevin. It's a double bed anyway." My face turned red. How could I possibly do that? Judy patted my shoulder. "Live in the moment, girl, or let George move into my room if you prefer." I was shocked. When did this happen? I had no idea. Judy grinned mischievously. "Remember what you said when I was reborn, asking if single Judy could solve her relationship status before the apocalypse hits? Well, look, I've sorted it." I was so startled I dropped my pen. "So you 2 hit it off before the apocalypse started?" George suddenly appeared, wrapping an arm around my neck. "Yeah. Judy didn't want me to tell you. She wanted to see when you'd figure it out, but you never did." I shrugged off his hand and rolled my eyes. Such a strong-willed woman. Then I pushed my brother to go prepare the room. It's lively with more people around. Now my mom doesn't lack players for her mahjong games. My mom, Tina, and Professor Leo love playing mahjong. They can always pull someone in to make a full game. Our days as young people are also fun, albeit slightly different from before. From eating, sleeping, and playing games, it's now eating, sleeping, and fighting zombies. My archery skills are improving, and we're collecting more zombie crystals. We encounter monsters occasionally, but not often, and whenever I watch from the city walls, they leave after a while. Occasionally, my brother inspects the outer walls. If he sees any cracks, we patch them up with cement. The board games like 3 Kingdoms Kill, Werewolf Kill, and Script Kill that I bought finally found their place. Before, my parents wouldn't join us in playing them. The main cooks are my mom, Tina, and Mandy. They're passionate about cooking and make delicious meals. On the kitchen blacklist are my dad, Judy, and Sarah. They are kitchen disasters and shouldn't be let in lightly. Honestly, it's terrifying how Sarah can make food that looks delicious but is lethal when you taste it. Day 56 of the apocalypse. We've run out of fresh vegetables. But fortunately, we can grow our own, so we're not lacking in greens. If worst comes to worst, we still have dehydrated vegetables. At that time, Kevin and I were learning from Judy how to make bombs with sugar, while Uncle Jack, who was listening in, kept criticizing our peacetime activities. Just when I thought it was going to be another calm day, my brother came rushing down from the 4th floor. "Typically, that means there's some new developments. Winnie, there's a car coming," he said. I put the test tube back and frowned. "Is it like the time with Kevin and the others?" George shook his head. "No, it's 5 big trucks. This was definitely big news. We ran up to the 4th floor and looked out the window to see 5 trucks that seemed to be modified. The trucks stopped in front of Jack's ex-wife's villa. 2 muscular men dragged a woman out by her hair. Some of the others guarded the vehicles while the rest carried boxes to load onto the trucks. Guns. Why did they have guns? Jack rushed down the moment he saw the woman being dragged out, and Kevin followed him downstairs. I knew Kevin would hold him back, not to mention their guns, just the number of people they had. We couldn't beat them. The 2 men were tearing at the woman's clothes, and I knew what was going to happen next, but I didn't put down the binoculars. This was my first direct encounter with the darkness and sin the apocalypse brought. And there might be more to come. Observe. I needed to observe carefully for intelligence. The 2 men on top of the woman, one had large tattoos on his arm, and the other, I recognized, or rather, I recognized more than half of the people in that convoy. They were from the construction crew that had worked on our house. The other half, their muscles didn't quite look like those of the construction crew, and some were foreigners, special forces. I couldn't help but swear, this was trouble. Who knew what else besides guns they had? At that moment, one of the men covering the woman's mouth twisted his face and pulled out a handgun, ending her life with a single shot. The man cursed loudly, clutching his bleeding finger, spat on the woman's corpse, and grumbled as he climbed back into the truck. A boy about 10 years old was then pushed onto the truck by their men. That must be Jack's son. The 5 trucks with cargo started driving towards our villa. I put down the binoculars and gave Judy a bitter smile. Judy, did I make a mistake? Maybe I shouldn't have sent messages to everyone I knew to take refuge. There are no shortage of clever people in the world. Surely someone in the construction crew realized that they and their colleagues all received such messages, which might have led them to deduce that we have supplies, thus leading them here. Judy patted my head. You said it yourself. The world isn't short of clever people. If they are from the construction crew, they could easily infer from our peculiar renovations that we knew about the apocalypse in advance. You can't blame yourself. I felt dejected. Is it wrong to be a kind person? Judy said. Winnie, you know what I liked most about this villa? It's in the countryside. Fewer people. Fewer vile acts. Although I only lived through the apocalypse for 3 months in my past life, I saw plenty of filth, people using women and children as bait, exploiting others' compassion to commit murder and robbery, rape, murder, arson. To survive, I resorted to every extreme, yet, I never opposed those things you did obviously to help others. In my past life, I always hoped someone would come to help me. Indeed, a young lady did help me, but it cost her her life. I failed her by not seizing the chance to live on. Soon after her death, I too was killed by zombies. I sniffled. Judy, do you know how my previous life ended? Judy clenched the binoculars in her hand. I knew from our connection in the past life, but seeing her reaction, I felt my end must have been quite tragic. I quickly interrupted. Stop, I don't want to know anymore. Let's focus on the problems at hand now. I activated the surveillance cameras on my tablet and saw 5 large trucks parked outside, forming a pentagon. Strong-built men began to disembark one by one. The leader tilted his chin up, and a heavy-set man eagerly ran to the door and started pounding on it. I set the tablet aside and turned to Jack, saying, Uncle Jack, there's something I need to tell you, and you have to stay calm. Jack's fists clenched and then relaxed as his chest heaved. I reluctantly broke the news. They have your son. Through gritted teeth, Jack managed to say, I know. Jack wobbled, and Tina quickly stepped forward to support him. He exhaled deeply. David, I know. We can't let them ruin us all because of him. I spoke firmly. We can't let them know we care about the person they have. So, you, Aunt Tina, Summer, Professor Leo, Sarah, Mandy, and Kevin must stay out of sight. Understand? It was clear these people were here for my fortress and supplies. There would be no peaceful resolution. I planned to take them out and rescue Jack's son in the process. Jack wasn't just anyone. He was a professor capable of lecturing at a major university, skilled in a variety of subjects including weapon chemistry and physics. I suspected his expertise might be in military technology. It was crucial to foster a good relationship with him, beyond mere self-interest, during our time together. He not only taught us hand-to-hand combat but also how to handle various weapons and even gave us tips on bomb-making. Given all he had done for us, if there was a chance to save his son, it was certainly worth a try. I hadn't mentioned saving David explicitly to avoid creating false hopes, so I simply outlined my plan. They agreed, and I believe Jack understood there was a chance it could work. Then I turned to Judy. Judy, do you still have those bombs? Judy nodded and ran to the third floor to fetch them. Whether useful or not, it was better to have them. All fear stems from insufficient firepower. At that moment, a tattooed man with a little girl approached the camera beneath, and kicked the heavy-set man who had been pounding on the door. I spoke through the camera. What do you want, making such a noise? Are you trying to attract zombies? Before I could finish, they lifted a handgun and shot the speaker. Come out and talk. I know you can hear us. I scratched my head in irritation. They were proving to be quite a challenge. I'll go. I prepared the bomb Judy had given me. My mom held me back. No, you can't go. They have guns. I softly reassured her. It's okay. How about this, Mom? Go find me a megaphone. It'll be safer. She was persuaded and went to look for a megaphone. My brother asked, do you really have to go? I'll come with you, I replied. I have to go. They have guns, and who knows what else. I think they still want this wall, so they won't act rashly. If anything happens, bro, you take them and run. I'd rather blow this place up with gasoline than let them have it. Kevin grabbed me. I was in the car. They couldn't have seen me through the reflective film. But aren't you his cousin? I asked, puzzled. Kevin struggled for words. I can wait for you below the wall. After a brief thought, I agreed. Okay. The tattooed man, holding the dazed little girl, impatiently said to the camera, hurry up, or I'll, tell me, what do you want, blocking my house with 5 big trucks? I spoke through the megaphone. I hid in the guard tower on the outer wall, and so did Kevin. Suddenly, I realized as long as we didn't go down, David couldn't see us at all. I watched from the surveillance as the tattooed man smirked and said, don't be nervous, we mean no harm. It's just that your family has stockpiled so many supplies. They'll go bad before you can use them all, so how about you support us instead? Come out and let's meet. Of course, I didn't trust him. Big brother, do you think I'm stupid? What if I come out and get a bullet in my head? You guys are armed, aren't you? I've seen very clearly through my binoculars how you treat others. Killing me wouldn't do them any good. Their chances of a clean shot were low, but the risk was still not worth taking. The tattooed man decided to drop the pretense. Since you know our style, just open the door, or else. He ripped open a little girl's shirt, grabbed her neck, lifted her up, and licked her face with his tongue. The girl desperately tried to pull his hands off, but the tattooed man was unmoved. How about you enjoy this live flirtation? He said maliciously. I clenched my fists tightly, wishing I could flay him alive. Clearing my throat, I turned on the megaphone and pretended to be nonchalant. You're truly disgusting, but what do you think has kept me alive in this apocalypse for so long? Do you think I'm some kind of saint? Annoyed, the tattooed man clicked his tongue, threw the little girl on the ground, and I breathed a sigh of relief. He stormed over to a man in the convoy and punched him hard. The man was the manager of a renovation team. The audio from the surveillance was limited, and I couldn't hear what they were saying. The man came back and continued, I underestimated you. Indeed, who else but tough people could survive till now, but since I promised a show, I won't go back on my word. As he spoke, another man with a scar on his face threw the little girl to the ground and started unbuckling his belt. The girl screamed and scrambled backwards, but someone grabbed her feet and dragged her back. Monsters, hold on, just hold on. Are you annoying or what? Really, how many kids of this age do you have on hand? I pretended to be impatient. Oh. So you're not a saint after all. Can't stand to watch, can you? The tattooed man said with a grin, raising his hand to stop the scarred man. Using the megaphone, I said, think what you want. My little brother is 12 this year, and just now my mom was telling me to keep an eye out for a few potential daughters-in-law, maybe find him a playmate to boost his masculinity. Damn, even now she's thinking about continuing the family line. Oh, by the way, we only want clean ones, if you have any. I can trade supplies for them. The supplies in the villa you looted aren't much, are they? How long can they support all of you? The tattooed man laughed angrily. Aren't you afraid we'll just bomb you all to Kingdom Come? I laughed heartily. Big brother, how do you think I became the leader of this fortress in a family that favors boys over girls? It's because I've buried a homemade bomb where I store the gasoline, otherwise. How do you think I got to live a life where my mom waits on me hand and foot? Sorry, Mom, the tattooed man spat. Little girl, you're pretty tough on yourself. I smiled and said, of course, how else to survive? I could have enjoyed life here with my best friend, but she wanted to be a saint and go outside. What could I do but lock her out with the zombies? Do you have more kids to sell? Can we wrap this up? I still need to go back and watch my TV show. I pretended to be somewhat impatient. Sure, why not? The tattooed man clapped his hands, and his men brought out 7 children from a vehicle, 3 boys and 5 girls, including the little girl from before. David was among them. Pick whichever one you like, the tattooed man gestured. I said, come on, don't make me state the obvious. You can't just hike up the price like that. You start with an offer, the tattooed man proposed. For one person, 300 bottles of water, 200 packets of instant noodles, and if there's no noodles, we'll substitute with other stuff. I rejected his offer outright. Are you trying to rob me? 100 bottles of water and 100 packets of noodles, the tattooed man asked. Deal, which one do you prefer? I replied, I'm worried you'll jack up the price, so you send a kid over every day. I'll give them your daily food, and if I like one, I'll keep them. We'll adjust the amounts as needed. Don't worry, you won't lose out. The tattooed man pondered briefly and then agreed. Deal, you go today. He nudged a little girl next to him. I clicked my tongue and asked, how many are you? He casually threw out a number. 60. I retorted, big brother, at least put some effort into lying. I'm not blind. The tattooed man, annoyed, kicked the little girl, who cried out, 42. All right, I'll go get the stuff ready. I turned off the loudspeaker and breathed a sigh of relief. The tattooed man smirked nastily and spat, bluffing. Just wait and see if it's just a bluff. I spoke into the walkie-talkie to those inside the villa. Prepare 40 packets of noodles and 40 bottles of water. Oh, and fill 20 of those bottles with well water using the empty mineral bottles we haven't thrown out yet. After making sure the loudspeaker and walkie-talkie were off, I gave Kevin a weak smile. How's my acting? My legs were actually shaking. Kevin gave a thumbs up. If it weren't for the apocalypse, you could have been a movie star. George and Judy's father brought me the supplies I had requested. George asked in a low voice, what's your plan? I lowered my head, my hair falling over my eyes. I plan to act fast. Hyenas can never be satiated. Right now, they probably still think we're harmless good folk, so they won't attack outright. But who knows about later? We need to strike first. I threw down the rope ladder while Kevin stood guard with a machete, making sure no one tried to climb up in the meantime. It seemed the tattooed man and his group knew better than to attempt a futile charge while we lowered the rope ladder. The first to come up was another little girl with braided pigtails. As she climbed up the rope ladder and saw me, she knelt down, grabbing my clothes, begging me to buy her, not wanting to go back as those people were devils. I comforted her, stroked her hair, pretended to take a photo with a tablet, and smiled. Can you answer a few questions for me? Sobbing, the girl responded. Yes, I asked. How many people are in your car? How did the children like you end up there? Are there other people who are not free? She answered one by one. There were 42 people in the car, including some women and children who were captured after the thugs killed and looted. I then asked, do you know why they brought so many children? She nodded. He said children could serve as two-legged sheep. My breath hitched. They were planning to resort to cannibalism. I asked again. How long have they held you captive? She replied, about a month. I smiled faintly, glanced at the tablet as if checking something, and said, sorry, little sister, it seems my brother doesn't like you much. Her eyes welled up, and she started crying. I placed a dagger at her neck. Be quiet, but don't lose heart. Maybe after all, my brother might take a liking to you. That kid's indecisive, but for now, take your stuff and get out. I hardened my expression. The girl sobbingly threw the supplies to the men below the city wall and climbed back down the rope ladder. I pulled up the rope ladder and collapsed on the ground, exhaustedly pinching the bridge of my nose. Kevin put down the knife he was holding and said, there's something off about that girl. I muttered, indeed, she's more cautious than I expected. There's not a single scratch on this little girl, and her clothes are relatively clean. Yet she claims she's been captured for over a month. Kevin added, her face is dirty, but she looks healthy. I sighed, it's tricky. I wonder if poisoning would work. What do you think about asking Professor Leo to concoct a colorless, tasteless poison? Kevin replied, I think it's worth a try. Professor Leo is always deep into his research in biology and chemistry. I dusted off my pants, stood up, and walked back to the villa with Kevin. Jack was the first to greet us. How did it go? Is David all right? I took a sip of water and said, don't worry, Uncle Jack, if all goes well, David should be safe. The real issue is whether we can save the other hostages they have. I don't want to hurt them unless absolutely necessary. I asked Professor Leo. Professor Leo, have you managed to create a drug from the supplies at home that could knock someone out? Professor Leo sighed, nodded, and presented 2 bottles, one blue and one red. The blue one is made with cardiac drugs and for high blood pressure, the red one is made with apples. I pretended to understand. Professor Leo sighed again, this time without explaining further. Just remember, the blue one is like a sleeping pill, a drop should put someone into a deep sleep for about 5 hours, the red one is poison. Be careful not to get it on your skin. I carefully took the bottles and tucked them into my jacket. The next evening, using binoculars, we saw a man with tattoos setting up a simple fence with wire and stakes in the distance. It was better than nothing. In rural areas with fewer zombies, it was somewhat effective. I prepared 10 cans of luncheon meat, 40 steamed buns, and 40 bottles of water, this time all from the well. The tattooed man brought another child, this time a boy. I observed him carefully and concluded that this boy wasn't in league with the criminals. I asked him similar questions to the previous day. How many people are there? I'm not sure, maybe 30 or 40. Who else is captured like you? There are about 7 or 8 other kids, and 4 or 5 older girls and women. Did you get to drink the bottled water yesterday? Yes, 2 of us shared 1 bottle. And the bottles were already opened. The boy's eyes brightened. He was smart and seemed to understand what I was trying to do. We ate the food that was delivered yesterday. They didn't touch the new food, but they drank the water. So, you're short on water, I noted thoughtfully. Could you tell them to send up the empty water bottles when you go back? I instructed the boy. The boy nodded. Suddenly, he turned back and looked at me, asking, will you save us? I didn't know how to respond. If the plan failed, their death was a possibility. So I could only say, I'll try my best. The boy smiled, showing 8 teeth. Thank you, that's enough for me. The tattooed man yelled from below, Big sister, that's not fair, you only brought 40 buns for so many of us. I replied, be glad you got buns, didn't I add 20 cans of meat? I'll send more tomorrow, but hurry up with the water bottles, or there won't be any water tomorrow. You're so cunning, why not store more water? I do, but my house has a well. The water was polluted some time ago. While it's still drinkable, why should I bother with sealed water? On the 3rd day, in the evening, this time, luck was on my side. The visitor was David, except for the first time, it was always boys. They couldn't really believe the nonsense about finding a bride for my brother, could they? Regardless, my second objective was achieved. I asked David, did you guys get any spam yesterday? David shook his head and said, only half a bun and half a bottle of water. I had Kevin take him back and proceed with the plan. I shouted to the tattooed man below, where did you find this clean-looking little boy? My mother is very pleased. Since it satisfies me, I won't let you suffer. Just wait, have someone else come up to fetch the items, and remember to bring the empty bottles. I picked up a can of spam that I had prepared earlier, its surface smeared with poison. I doubted they were so meticulous as to wash hands before meals now, but the dosage might not be lethal. The main focus was still in the water. Each bottle contained a drug to cause unconsciousness, success or failure. It was now up to fate. It was the same young boy who came again. He first threw a whole box of spam to the people below the wall, then the water, and finally took a plastic bag containing 80 buns. I quietly told him, don't eat the spam, not even touch it, understand? His eyes lit up, and he nodded. I gave them well water to facilitate drugging. Collecting bottles daily was to force them to drink the water I provided within a day, ensuring that each of them would consume the poisoned water next time. As for the spam, people like them probably wouldn't share such supplies with hostages. However, there's always a chance, and I could only pray that everything would go according to plan. Not long after the boy took the items down, Kai, Jack, George, Sarah, Mandy, and Judy's father arrived. Each of them carried a compound bow and a dagger. They lightly stepped onto the outer wall, and Kevin casually handed me a compound bow, a quiver of arrows, a dagger, and a bundle of rope. I reiterated, also to bolster my own courage, kill all those with guns, and the suspicious ones too. Better to kill wrongly than to let one go. The 6 of them nodded, and I took a deep breath, listening to the noise outside. There were successive thuds. The sound of bodies hitting the ground. Let's go, Kevin, Jack, and I climbed down the rope ladder, while George, Sarah, Mandy, and Judy's father provided cover with their bows from above. Not everyone had eaten the provided spam and water. Those who didn't react quickly enough when the others fell were left on the wall and got their heads shot through by arrows. In a few strides, I ran to a man who had either passed out or died. He still held a half-eaten can of Spam in his hand. I stepped forward, knelt down, and slit his throat. Killing a person lying powerless on the ground was no harder than killing a rabbit. I took the gun hanging from his body, a rifle, a submachine gun. I wasn't sure about guns. I searched him and pulled a photo from his shirt pocket. It was a family photo, a woman in a floral dress leaning on the man's shoulder, and their daughter, smiling brightly, wearing denim overalls in the middle. I gently tucked the photo back into his shirt pocket, checked his other pockets, and found a handgun and 2 magazines. This was my first time using a gun. A handgun was better than this unknown gun, rifle or submachine gun, since I had seen documentaries and knew how to use it. Holding the handgun, I turned off the safety and shot him in the forehead, moving on to the next person. With a pistol equipped with a silencer, finishing off the wounded became much easier. This was done partly to prevent them from pretending to be dead only to suddenly attack, and partly to prevent them from turning into zombies. I didn't want to recall the sensation of my dagger slicing through flesh, nor did I want to think about the possibility that among these people, there could be good ones. A group photo flashed through my mind. I shook my head to dispel the thought. Be careful. Kevin lunged towards me, followed by a gunshot. We tumbled awkwardly on the ground. The tattooed man, he hadn't died or passed out. Bang, Jack shot and killed him. Kevin and I got up from the ground, dirty and disheveled, spitting out the dirt from our mouths. Jack said sternly, "Stay alert." I nodded vigorously in agreement, though we had been physically training for several days. I, as a novice, still felt slightly inferior. Soon, Kevin, Jack, and I finished our grim task. Kevin and I looked pale, it being our first time doing such a thing, while Jack's expression remained unchanged. Besides a woman and children locked in one of the pickup trucks, there were no other survivors. We checked the 5 trucks. One was loaded with various firearms and ammunition. Jack meticulously identified them and informed us that they were well made but not produced in our country. The 3 of us exchanged looks, feeling the situation was quite complicated. But that wasn't our immediate concern. The other 4 trucks contained food, supplies for setting up a temporary camp, and other miscellaneous items like gasoline and medicine, along with unconscious people, 5 women and 6 children, besides the little boy who climbed up a second time. The rest were unconscious. While Kevin and Jack checked the pickup truck, I flashed a signal with my flashlight on the wall. Even though it was summer and still slightly light, visibility was much less than during the day. As we waited for Sarah and the others, I looked towards the center of the camp enclosed by trucks. The first girl who climbed the wall was nestled next to the renovation team manager who had worked for us. She held a piece of luncheon meat in her hand and had a small bullet hole in her forehead. I didn't know their relationship, father and daughter, uncle and niece, or just strangers who met because of the apocalypse. I suddenly felt nauseous. She was only about 11 or 12, the age to be doted on by her parents. Perhaps she was indeed treated well, but her initial climb on the wall might not have been for the reasons I imagined. Maybe the renovation team manager just simply wanted his daughter to be taken in by us. I scoffed at myself for overthinking. What was the use? It was just self-torment. The only conscious boy followed my gaze and, perhaps knowing what I was thinking, comforted me. "My name is Zane. Her name is Lily. She's with her dad. Don't feel too guilty. She's not that good either. She helped her dad deceive many people." I smiled at him without saying anything. The gate opened, and Sarah drove a small truck carrying Mandy, Judy's dad, and my dad. 11 people, tied up by Jack and Kevin with their hands behind their backs, the little boy cooperating fully. After tying them up, I took a bottle of water from Mandy and splashed it on their faces. Some of them woke up and climbed into the truck themselves, while others, still unconscious, were carried onto the truck. We had already delayed too long outside. The scent of blood would attract a large number of zombies, and the iron barriers set up would hardly stop the zombies stimulated by the blood scent. We needed to hurry back. Sarah drove, Mandy sat in the passenger seat. My father and Judy's father were watching over the women and children, mainly to prevent them from making any sudden moves. Jack and Kevin stood guard outside with their guns. Vigilant, we made it back to the fortress safely and quickly. Soon, the growls of zombies came from beyond the walls. Unexpectedly, Jack, who appeared mature and composed, ended up tattling to my mom about me. Due to the close call I had with the robbery, I was continuously nagged by my parents and George for a long time. I stuttered, not daring to fight back, casting pleading glances at my boyfriend, Kevin. He glanced at his uncle, then at my mom who was scolding me, seemed about to say something but then averted his gaze under my expectant look. What a useless man, so I turned my pleading eyes to my best friend, Judy. Judy was leisurely eating chips. Catching my signal, she casually brushed off the crumbs from her hands, subtly nudged George, who was gossiping and occasionally stirring trouble, to the side, then pushed my mom onto the couch to comfort her, and shot George a stern look. Understanding the cue, George pulled my dad away, my brother, prioritizing romance over his sister, with George pulling my dad away. The focus on me lessened and I felt much relief. I repeatedly assured my mom that I would be more careful and not make the same mistake again, finally managing to extricate myself. Today was unusual. There were 11 strangers within the walls, and zombies were gathering outside the fortress, so we assigned 2 people to keep watch at night. Tonight, Tina and Jack were on duty. After everything was arranged, I went back to my room, took my rabbit, Little White, out of its cage. And the fluffy touch greatly soothed my anxious heart. How do we deal with the approaching zombies? Could the gathering of zombies attract mutated plants and animals? What should we do with the 11 people we rescued? Those thugs wouldn't just want food in exchange for the kids, they must have done something else, something I hadn't noticed. What was it? Such a headache. I put the rabbit back in its cage, decided not to think anymore, and went to take a bath before having a good night's sleep. The next day, I woke up very early, the earliest I had in days. I didn't sleep well, the fate of those 11 people weighing heavily as a difficult problem. Originally, my intention was to eliminate the malevolent thugs and incidentally rescue them, but I couldn't possibly provide for them. If I just sent them away, they would still die, so why did I bother about their welfare when I first planned to take down those people? I came to the living room where a steaming bowl of knife-cut noodles awaited, tasting delicious. During breakfast, everyone gradually gathered on the first floor, either in the living room or the garden, as the recent situation didn't allow for anyone to sleep in. Kevin was looking after Summer and David. My mom was in the kitchen, serving knife-cut noodles to anyone who came in. My dad and Judy's dad were probably working in the fields. Sarah and Mandy were likely on patrol. As I was finishing my noodles, Judy and George sat down beside me with their bowls. Judy asked, "Are you planning to keep those people?" I drank the last of the soup, wiped my mouth with a napkin, and then slowly shook my head. They both sighed in relief. I said, "If I wanted to keep them, would you have agreed?" Judy and George shook their heads again. Neither Judy nor George would agree. The last time I agreed to let Kevin and the other 6 stay was because I somewhat understood them. Character is revealed at the time of breakup. Although Kevin's reason for our breakup was fictitious, it was clean and I believed that, even if we parted, I might still look back fondly on him, but I will also move beyond this failed romance and step into a new phase of my life. Jack's character can also be glimpsed from the way he provided supplies to his ex-wife. Although Professor Leo has never taught me, he is also a professor with a very good reputation, and Mandy is someone I often run into at school. Moreover, it's only been 10 days since the apocalypse started. If Kevin had listened to me and stocked up on supplies, he likely wouldn't be facing survival difficulties due to hunger. Jack and he are relatives, and they have probably been together during this time. Although it's a bit of a stretch, the likelihood is that Sarah being with them is for the same reason. I have ample supplies on hand, so even if we take them in, there won't be a shortage. Lack of supplies and limited survival are common reasons why many people fall into despair, but I don't have this trouble. Even if they are not good people, there's no great need for conflict. On the contrary, taking them in and having them as companions could greatly increase our chances of survival in the future. That was the rational decision I made in that moment. Then there were my emotions. I have to admit, there's a soft spot in my heart. I spent 4 years at College X, and Sarah was my classmate for 3 of those years. We played in competitions together, cleaned the school together, and resisted the tutors together. I was in a relationship with Kevin for a year, and the memories still bring me sweetness. Professor Leo never taught me, but every time I went to the library, I would see him. We weren't from the same department, but we both liked the desks by the windows with the plants. Then there's Mandy, whom I didn't know by name before, but I recognized him as the graduate student who would occasionally be scolded by the old professors outside the library, looking up with innocent, wide eyes. I couldn't ignore them when I was clearly able to help. Judy would probably agree with me for similar reasons, although she's not very familiar with these people. Given our relationship built from talking on the phone 4 or 5 times a week, it would be hard for Judy not to know about them, and she rarely opposes my decisions. As for George, he doesn't like to think too much about these things. His agreement is primarily based on trust in me, secondly, because we truly have enough supplies, and lastly, he's confident in his own strength. 2 women, a child, an elderly person, 3 intellectuals. He's always been confident in his own strength. However, after spending these days together, George has stopped boasting about his fighting skills. At least he can't beat Jack, and fighting Kevin is just barely winning. But this time it's different. This time we don't have a reason to take in these 11 people, although we still have enough supplies. There are no more rooms available in the villa to accommodate them, and having them stay in the non-soundproof periphery would only bring us danger. Even if they were willing to sleep on the floor in the villa, we wouldn't dare let these people in. There's only one reason, and it's simple: we don't trust them. In peacetime, I wouldn't place so much trust all at once, let alone in a post-apocalyptic world. I'm annoyed that I've taken on this mess, but I'm also clear that I wouldn't do anything to harm innocent people to save myself, or rather, those who can stay in this villa don't have that kind of resolve. Under the protection of our stronghold, we haven't had many opportunities to face the dark side of humanity. Professor Leo's sigh when he handed me the poison was perhaps for those who have fallen and died because of the apocalypse. Perhaps Judy could do it without changing her expression, but even she agreed with my subconscious plan to avoid harming the innocent. While we were talking, Jack and Tina walked in. Summer called out to her parents and ran into their arms. While David was a bit restrained, Jack soothed the kids for a while and then let Tina take them to play. Kevin, rubbing his shoulders, walked over, complaining about how tiring it is to take care of children, just like at the beginning, where Judy, George, and I were the decision-makers among the 6 of us. Now among the 7 of them, it's Jack, Kevin, and Sarah who take charge. We discuss some major topics together, but Jack and the others are very prudent people. Generally speaking, they only offer suggestions and don't interfere with our decisions. Sarah wasn't there, she was out patrolling with Mandy. Once everyone was seated, I directly asked Jack, "What's the situation outside? I can watch the surveillance, but surveillance can only reveal so much." Jack was straightforward. "There are roughly 300 zombies surrounding us now, and more may come." Judy suggested, "How about we use fire? We could pour gasoline and burn them." Kevin objected, "If we want to retrieve those weapons, we can't use fire." I proposed, "What if we kill a few rabbits and try to lure the zombies with their blood before burning them?" George added, "Or we could use the homemade bombs we've prepared. As long as we can penetrate their spines and brains, the zombies will die. We've had these for a while and never used them." Jack said, "Fire isn't an option as zombies can run, which is too unpredictable." George's idea seems feasible. We confiscated 5 automatic rifles, 2 pistols, and a total of 189 .56mm bullets yesterday. Using bombs along with firearms and bows should be enough to retrieve the weapons from that vehicle. Judy said, "Okay, that's problem 1 solved. Now, on to problem 2. Judy tilted her chin up and indicated, "What about the group of people outside?" George and I didn't speak. I can't save them, but I don't want to simply abandon them. For a moment, everyone fell silent. "Talking won't help. We should first deal with the zombies outside," I said. "Their issue can be thought through later. It will be bad if the zombies get over here." Judy went upstairs to fetch the homemade bombs for George, while Kevin and I went to get the bows and arrows. Bullets are too scarce. We still need to rely on melee weapons. Apart from Judy, Professor Leo, my parents, Summer, and David who stayed in the villa, everyone else went out to fight the zombies. As we climbed down the inner wall ladder, 2 women we had rescued were chatting by the cabin. Seeing us, their eyes lit up and they started to approach. I stopped them. "Stop, don't come closer." They looked a bit confused but said, "Don't misunderstand, we just wanted to say thank you." I replied, "No need." Then I asked, "Do you know Zane?" They nodded. "Yes, we were among the first group captured." I said, "Could you ask him to come here?" They agreed and went to one of the cabins to fetch Zane. Zane bounded over, looking more energetic and smiling. "Need me for something?" I pointed to 2 nearby cabins and told Zane, "I have a task for you. Gather your people and stay in those 2 cabins. Don't come out without my permission." Zane didn't ask any questions and simply acknowledged before running back. they were quick to act and soon executed my orders. Now we have 5 automatic rifles, 2 pistols, and 189 bullets. Each rifle has 30 bullets, each pistol has 10, plus 2 extra pistol magazines with 19 bullets in total. Jack briefly taught us how to use these weapons yesterday, so us young folks now know how to handle them. George, Kevin, Jack, Sarah, and I, the most accurate shooters, naturally took the rifles. The 2 pistols were given to Judy and Tina. I stationed Tina on the inner wall to keep watch over the people. Then George and I looked over the outer wall and caught sight of the zombies. I gasped at the sight. The zombies were piling up, nearly 2 meters high. It wouldn't be long before they could climb over. It looked like there were definitely more than 300 zombies. This area was specifically chosen by Judy and me. Considering most rural people work away from home, the area is sparsely populated. Yet there are still so many zombies emerging. I can't imagine how terrifying the scene must be in the city. Actually, zombies are easier to kill than one might think, especially if you have weapons, particularly firearms. George threw 3 bombs wrapped with fine nails into the zombie pile. Then he and I ran to the wall and stood against it like everyone else. He took a remote control out of his pocket and pressed the button. 3 deafening explosions erupted from beyond the wall, shaking the outer wall violently. Once the dust settled, we climbed the wall for a quick look. The effect was mediocre. The probability of the nails piercing through the brain and spine was quite low. Many zombies were still clawing at the wall below, some of which had turned from fully functional to crippled but still scratching. Seeing this, George calmly said, "No worries, I have more." Then he threw down 5 more bombs. After repeating this 3 times, many zombies were killed, and the ones still moving couldn't pose much of a threat anymore. The 7 of us lined up on the wall, George, Kevin, Sarah, and I practiced our shooting skills. After all, there was a truckload of firearms nearby, and we weren't short on bullets. Jack coached us on how to hold our guns while Mandy and Judy's dad kept watch, occasionally shooting arrows at the zombies' heads. An hour later, we had cleared all the zombies in the vicinity. Indeed, all fear stems from a lack of firepower. I opened the gate, and Sarah skillfully drove the small truck out, running over the corpses of the zombies. She, along with George and Jack, went to gather supplies, mainly weapons, as we weren't short on other things. Kevin and I also drove out in a small car, first catching the magazines Jack tossed to us. Then we circled around the outer wall. It made no sense for the band of raiders to be calmly engaging with us for so long. They must have been up to something, but we found nothing. Did these raiders really do nothing at all? Perplexed, I could only return with Kevin to help transport the supplies. It was a huge haul. With 30 boxes of 5.56mm ammunition alone, I just wanted to drive the big pickup back, but unfortunately, the gate I repaired wasn't tall enough, and that wasn't all. There was even more in their vehicle. "What's this?" I asked, looking at what Jack was holding. "A rocket launcher," Jack replied with a grave expression. George excitedly asked, "Like the ones in the movies that can blow up tanks?" Jack nodded. "Cool." George reached out to take it but Jack dodged. "Kids shouldn't play with such dangerous weapons." George, standing over a box of grenades at 24 years old, I stepped forward to lighten the mood. "Let's stop chatting and start moving the supplies. Standing around talking in a pile of corpses isn't exactly pleasant." We sped up the process and moved all the weapons back, yet, Jack looked troubled all the way until we were safely back inside the fortress. Curious, I directly asked, "Uncle Jack, what's wrong?" Ever since David was rescued, Jack had grown closer to me, though it wasn't obvious. I could feel it. Jack sighed deeply. "Our country doesn't really use 5.56mm bullets. They're a common caliber in Country A, but in the past 2 years, they've developed a new type of ammunition and the 5.56mm has slowly been phased out. As for these weapons, despite being outdated models, they're not something easily obtained through smuggling." I pondered, so this is not just smuggling, but more likely a premeditated act of international political strife. I began to understand. The obstacles to our post-disaster reconstruction weren't just zombies and mutant flora and fauna, but also certain countries looking to suppress others to maintain their own status. Jack nodded. After this disaster, the international status of countries will inevitably be reshuffled, creating a new international order. Governments are surely acting. It's just that we're unaware due to communication disruptions, Sarah said optimistically, thinking positively. If the upper echelons are still so active, it means the government is still functioning and help should be on its way soon. Kevin sighed. Our country always responds the fastest to rescue efforts. We still haven't heard any news, and they're boldly walking around with guns. It seems we might have a long wait ahead of us. I shrugged my shoulders, trying to offer some comfort. Maybe the rescue operation has already started, it just hasn't reached Jay's city yet. It's also possible that Judy and I chose a remote location, and we're simply out of the loop. Now it all depends on the struggles among those at the top. George couldn't help but curse angrily. So we ordinary people are just sacrificial pawns in their political games. I didn't respond. Sometimes, reality is harsher than people imagine, and life is treated more trivially than one would think. But these aren't the things we should be pondering over right now. What's most important at the moment is the fact that we've managed to accumulate such a vast array of sophisticated weaponry. How could our homemade bombs even begin to compare? Even if we encountered that 3-meter-tall monster from before, now we could just blast it with a rocket launcher. Thrilling, truly. We moved the weapons into an empty room at the villa, which my mother had cleared out in advance. There are 20 rifles, 5 handguns, 3 submachine guns, and 2 sniper rifles. The 2 sniper rifles seem quite new, as if they've never been used before, and we have 2 rocket launchers as well. We also have numerous accessories like hand grenades, landmines, silencers, and scopes. While we were organizing, George and Jack took quite a few weapons to the garage, preparing some firepower in case we need to make a quick getaway in the future. After dealing with the weapons, I had an idea about what to do with those 11 people. While moving the weapons earlier, I had carefully observed the big trucks. Although I'm not very knowledgeable about this, I learned a bit when I had George modify the Land Rover last time. These vehicles were clearly modified. The front of each was reinforced with steel plates, but they weren't very thick, probably to maintain speed. As for other modifications, I wasn't too sure. I turned to Kevin, who's enthusiastic about cars, hoping he might understand better. Kevin, did you see those vehicles earlier? What do you think about the modifications? Kevin, lazily caressing the sniper rifle in the box, replied, "They're all right, I guess. The modifications are a bit rough, but still decent." That made sense. They couldn't prepare as we did. But since Kevin said they were decent, those thugs must be able to drive them long distances, so the performance should be reliable. After organizing the weapons and having a quick lunch, I planned to find those 11 people to gather some information and send them on their way. As we couldn't keep them here, every time we went out, we had to specifically arrange for someone to watch them, which was really troublesome. Accompanying me were Judy, Kevin, and Jack. George was supposed to come, but Judy said she was about to go crazy staying inside, so she handed the important keys to George and insisted on coming with me. I couldn't argue with her, so I agreed. My dad and Sarah also came along for a patrol. Although we had cleared some zombies earlier, the smell of blood was strong, and there was always the possibility of attracting more zombies. If too many accumulated and managed to climb over, it would be disastrous, so we often patrolled in pairs. Wait a minute, climb over, right? Why haven't they climbed over? It's just a 4-meter wall. Setting up a human ladder would do it. Why haven't they climbed over? This thought suddenly crossed my mind, and I was about to ask Kevin and Jack about it when I caught something out of the corner of my eye. My mind didn't have time to process it, and I instinctively moved in front of Judy. The sound of a gunshot rang out, and a bullet pierced through my chest. I dumbfoundedly lifted my hand to touch my chest, my hand covered in blood. My own blood. Maybe I was too shocked because my first thought was oddly strange. Why doesn't it hurt? Then the pain began to spread. Before I could react, Kevin had tackled me to the ground, but for me, it was, in that moment, time seemed to crawl to a standstill, and my senses felt magnified to an extraordinary degree. As I slowly collapsed to the ground, I could hear a woman's scream, a child's cries, and saw Kevin's face stricken with horror, while Jack quickly drew his gun to return fire. I felt my blood rushing out, draining the warmth from my body, and my vision began to fade to black. As my consciousness slipped away, the last thing I heard were Kevin and Judy shouting my name, "Winnie, is this what death feels like?" I slowly opened my eyes. I'm not dead. I thought for sure I was a goner. Looking around, I only saw Kevin and Judy. Kevin sat by my bed, about to speak, when Judy pushed him aside. Clenching her teeth and with a hint of tears in her voice, Judy said, "Of course you're not dead. Who gave you the right to just decide to shield me like that? I'm the chosen one here, much tougher than you." I was a bit dazed, feeling no pain in my chest, and surprisingly lighter, except for feeling a bit weak. Everything else seemed fine. After saying that, Judy turned away, ignoring me. Seeing this, Kevin stepped forward to explain what had happened. The man who shot me was part of a group of bandits who had sneaked in using a human ladder and had been hiding in a cabin for days. They sent only one man to scout the situation inside to avoid detection. Ideally, they would have taken us all out if they could, but they didn't anticipate that despite having no water or electricity, our electrical grid was still operational. He managed to scale the first wall but couldn't get over the second. They planned to send tools to help him. But we quickly wiped them out. Though the attackers outside were dealt with, he thought that even if he surrendered, we wouldn't spare him, so he took a chance when only 4 of us, including 2 women, went to the cabin, thinking he could eliminate all 4 of us. I listened, breaking into a cold sweat, grateful that our fort's electric fence had 2 modes, a pulse mode that triggered alarms upon touch and a high-voltage mode that was lethal. Usually, to save power, we used the pulse mode. But this time, we had switched to the high-voltage mode just in case. Luckily, we had guards around during the zombie attack, otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to react quickly enough if he had fired at us in the dark. I asked, "What about Uncle Jack?" Kevin replied, "He's checking the cabin with some men." Then I asked, "How am I still alive?" I felt like my heart was shot through. Kevin explained, "That's all thanks to Judy. She saw you get shot and fell, holding you and crying. And then your wounds began to heal. If it weren't for the blood on your clothes, no one could tell you had been injured." I joked, "Didn't your hands emit a healing white light or something?" Judy rolled her eyes and couldn't help but retort, "What are you, in a movie, adding special effects now?" I quipped, "Maybe it's just me awakening some healing superpowers or something." Judy poked my forehead, "You're already this reckless without superpowers. What would you do if you actually had them?" "Try to fly." I wanted to argue that it wasn't my fault for being ambushed, but I didn't dare, feeling a bit guilty, so I changed the subject. "Judy, what does it feel like to use superpowers?" Judy, taking the bait, said, "It feels quite mysterious, kind of like using mental or psychic powers. I just wished for you to get better, and it felt like an invisible force began to gather, and then your wounds healed. That got me excited about superpowers." "So, does your ability have any specific conditions to activate? Can it only heal critical injuries, or will minor ones do as well?" Judy replied, "As long as I concentrate and have the energy, it should be fine." Struggling to get up, I suddenly embraced Judy around the waist and exclaimed loudly, "Judy, you are truly my chosen one." Kevin stepped forward, helped to peel me off her, and said with a smile, "You're weak right now. It's better if you lay down and rest." Kevin's expression was a bit frightening, so I obediently lay back down. Seeing my pathetic state, Judy scoffed. Suddenly realizing the problem, I quickly asked, "My mom doesn't know, does she?" Kevin coolly replied, feeling guilty now, "Don't worry, your aunt and the others don't know you've been shot, only Judy, my uncle, and Sarah, who heard the gunshot. No, she probably guessed it too." That was a relief. I had been scolded for a close call last time. Getting actually shot so soon after would have devastated them if not for Judy. "How did you hide all this blood on my chest from them?" Judy took over. "Kevin told them you had a severe nosebleed and then fainted. Your mom is outside making soup for you, planning to nourish you tonight." It was a nostalgic memory, back in elementary school. When I was frail and picky about food, my mom would creatively prepare delicious meals for me, especially luxurious soups, claiming they were nutritional. Later, when I gained weight and went to boarding school, those soup occasions became rare. A truly beautiful memory. Speaking of weight, thankfully, I managed to lose some during high school. Losing weight, I shook my head, preferring not to dwell on the past. Dwelling on it would only mask beautiful memories with pain. Unexpectedly, in this apocalypse, I could still enjoy the luxurious soups my mom made. Thinking of the days before the apocalypse felt surreal, as if it hadn't been even 3 months. I never expected things to turn out this way. Now, I was in the grand hall on the first floor, facing a large round table that came with the villa, complete with a large lazy Susan. Although we initially thought we wouldn't use it, we never got rid of it. Usually, we dined at a rectangular table for 10. But given everyone's different schedules, it was rare for everyone to gather at once. Those who missed meal times just ate whatever they liked. Now, all 14 of us were neatly seated around the round table, adorned with dishes vibrant in color and excellent in presentation. surely delicious in taste as well. The highlight was, there were 3 different yet distinctive versions of Buddha jumps over the wall on the table, and my mom was smilingly asking me which one tasted the best. Buddha jumps over the wall. It was impressive they managed to gather the ingredients. Want to try? Auntie Mandy and I each made a version of Buddha jumps over the wall. See which one you like best. Her smile was somewhat terrifying. Hesitantly, I picked up the chopsticks. No one else moved. A cold sweat ran down my forehead. I swallowed, put down the chopsticks, and said with a nervous smile, "Mom, with so many elders here, it wouldn't be right for me to start eating first." My mom continued to smile. "It's okay, you've had a tough few days. Go ahead, eat. None of the cooks have complained, right?" I looked at Tina. She smiled back, giving nothing away. After these days, I knew all too well her cunning nature, so I turned to Mandy. This silly kid was still smiling. He probably thought this was genuinely about judging whose cooking was better. Such lack of perception. No wonder I always saw you getting scolded by Professor Leo at the library whenever I visited. I glanced around at everyone sitting at the table. My dad, not understanding why my mom was upset, was either staring at the ceiling or chatting with Judy's dad. Judy's dad, clueless, got dragged into conversation by my dad. Jack seemed to realize my mom was upset because I had fainted, so he sat upright at the table, showing no intention of helping, staring solemnly at the dishes laid out before him. But I thought he was just daydreaming. Eventually, I pinned my hopes on Professor Leo. But the moment I saw his schadenfreude expression, I knew it was futile to expect anything from him. It was clear I couldn't rely on the elders. Looking at my brother, who probably thought a nosebleed was no big deal and that they were being too harsh on me, he cheerfully suggested to my mom, "How can we judge the food with only Winnie as the critic? Since the elders aren't interested, let us younger ones take over." He then winked at Judy. Catching on, Judy agreed, "Yes. It's rare to have such exquisite dishes, Auntie. You can't favor Winnie." Kevin quickly served several bowls and handed them to us. I carefully tasted 3 different soups and in one word, they were sublime. The flavors were rich, delicious, sweet, and the texture silky smooth. Each had its own unique merits. However, this did not change the fact that I couldn't tell which dish was made by my mom. At that moment, Sarah also put down her chopsticks, looked reflective, and pointed to the dish on the far left. "I can hardly choose between the other 2 Buddha jumps over the wall, but this one seems a bit mixed up." Honestly, that was the dish I found the tastiest. Mandy sure had some culinary skills, yet, Mandy's expression visibly fell, seemingly deeply hurt by his girlfriend's uncertain praise of his cooking skills. Sarah tilted her head at me and blinked her left eye, looking adorable. I responded with a grateful smile. I turned to Judy, who subtly shook her head, indicating she couldn't tell either. Looking at Kevin, he returned my glance with an innocent look. Right, he had never eaten my mom's cooking. During the time Tina and Jack got married, Kevin was already in college and probably hadn't eaten much of Tina's cooking either. Even if he had, it wouldn't have made a difference. I had been eating my mom's cooking for over a decade and still couldn't recognize it. He was no hope either, so I turned my gaze back to my brother. My brother decisively finished 3 bowls of soup, pondered for a while with a frown, and pointed to the middle one. "I think the middle one tastes the best." So, I made my choice. "I think the one on the right tastes the best." My brother is notoriously unlucky, so choosing the opposite of his choice was definitely the right move. Kevin, Judy, and Sarah followed my lead and voted for the Buddha jumps over the wall on the right. My mom looked at us somewhat proudly and then announced that it was time to eat. It seemed we guessed correctly. I breathed a sigh of relief. At least that hurdle was passed. During the meal, my mom sat next to me, occasionally serving me dishes. I said I could serve myself. She ignored me and peeled a shrimp, dipped it in sauce, and placed it in my bowl. Out of nowhere, she said, "If there's something troubling you, talk to your mom and dad. Don't bear it alone and be careful, not like today." I felt that my mom was sharper than I thought. She probably knew about the incident today but chose not to mention it. I buried my head in eating ribs, muttering a muffled as tears welled up in my eyes. Truthfully, I was scared. I had been scared these past days. Even though I was well aware of the future, even though I was in a safe fortress stocked with supplies that those struggling in the apocalypse longed for, I was still very scared. Initially, there were only 6 of us in this villa. Judy's father consciously handed over decision-making to us 3 young people. They depend on us, just as we depended on them in our childhood. Among Judy, George, and myself, I am the cornerstone. Judy has suffered from depression for a long time, but she told me it was mild, and I believed her. In fact, Judy is rather indifferent to life and death. She often says, life is just so. The rare peace one seeks can easily be achieved by death. Living might not be profitable, but dying surely isn't a loss, and so on. She doesn't want to die, but she isn't particularly keen on living either, but I want her to live. Judy dislikes making decisions because she tends to blame herself for all the potential negative outcomes, which causes her great pain. Therefore, she relies on me. As for George, he's kind of a blockhead, which might sound harsh. To put it more accurately, George is someone who miraculously turns bad luck into good fortune. When he walks down the street, flower pots fall from the sky, narrowly missing him. On the road, he gets beaten up by gangs who mistake him for someone else. In competitions, he always faces the strongest opponents in the first round. In games, he never manages to get the rarest characters. When he tries to help others, the people he saves often try to scam him. Luckily, surveillance footage proves his innocence. He signed up for a tour whose bus was buried in a valley due to a mudslide caused by heavy rain. It took 3 days for the rescue team to dig them out. Fortunately, George didn't go because he had broken his leg at home the day before. As his sister, I've witnessed countless examples of his misfortunes turning into blessings. Because of these events, George has become extremely agile and has developed an optimistic attitude without overthinking. So, in this stronghold, I am the one who makes the decisions. Yet, making decisions isn't easy, especially when they involve the lives of people you care about. Should we turn on the high-voltage electric grid daily? How many should patrol together? Could the small animals in the garden mutate? Should we bring in that lotus flower? How high should this wall be? Should we save them? How high is the risk in saving them? Is it worth it? Should we offer them the same material comforts as us, or should they earn their supplies through service, trust, or caution? Is this decision right? Will it kill them? One decision after another falls on me, and in this apocalypse where no mistake is tolerable, I faintly understand Judy's feelings from the past. I am self-aware. I am not the right leader. Later on, Jack and Sarah arrived, and I felt that either of them had a better sense of the big picture than I did, both capable of being competent leaders, especially Sarah, followed by Jack. However, I did not dare to leave the final decision to them. I trust them, yet I don't, because I know that when sacrifices must be made, I would do everything in my power to ensure it isn't someone I care about. I try to avoid the unavoidable, but in this apocalyptic world, anything could happen. Power is a poison, it corrupts the soul. Even in this small fortress of just 13 people, even I am constantly calculating against them. For instance, my mother and Judy, I rarely arrange for them to leave the villa to come outside. I snapped out of my thoughts and deliberately picked up a piece of spicy chicken, accidentally eating it with the chili. The chili was incredibly spicy, making my eyes red and causing tears to fall. I glared at my dad, annoyed, knowing he was just focused on eating, not caring about his daughter at all. My dad looked puzzled. After dinner, Judy, George, Kevin, Jack, Sarah, and I went to the recreation room to share information. This recreation room has almost turned into a conference room now. I asked Jack, how's the outer circle? Did that man lie? Did he really come in alone? Jack lowered his eyes, recalling the interrogation. This man, although skilled, didn't know much and provided limited information, he said. Then he shared what he had learned. 1. The tattooed man is called Andrew, suspected to be a foreign mercenary. 2. Andrew was contacted by Jerry, the manager of a renovation company. 3. Zombies can evolve, significantly enhancing their speed, strength, and jumping ability. I asked, that's it, George. Sarah, do you have anything to add? Sarah thought for a moment, shook her head, and said, Uncle Jack's summary is very comprehensive. George, however, was very excited. I think he didn't describe it vividly enough. Let me explain. George then told us that this renovation company is a subsidiary of a well-known construction company in J City. The chairman has connections in both the underworld and the legitimate business world, and his nephew Jerry is the manager of this renovation company. They occasionally did dirty jobs, and the company was strictly managed. Even if they didn't work, they had to report to the office, especially since the manager had specifically mentioned that a VIP was visiting that night. They were lucky that day. There weren't many mutants, mostly manual laborers. When they encountered mutants, a few of them teamed up and quickly dealt with them. Later, Jerry took them in a truck to escape to the construction site. surviving for several days on the materials available there. Eventually, Anderson, the tattooed man, somehow got in touch with their manager, and they followed Anderson around outside. Living off robberies, they all looked up to Anderson. Changing cars and killing people as he ordered, as it was the end of the world anyway. At first, they hesitated to act, but after Anderson threatened them with a gun to their heads, they became more proficient with firearms. Why not? Their lives were even better than before the apocalypse. They first raided a rundown neighborhood, searching homes for supplies. They stayed at the construction site for a while because there were too many zombies in the city. When Jerry told Andrew that our place was in good condition with fewer zombies and ample supplies, Andrew decided to take over here too. These zombies were formidable. Some could jump 2 meters high, some ran extremely fast, and there were many mutated plants and animals. They lost many people fighting their way here. That's about it, George finished, twisting off a water bottle cap and taking a sip. Besides making the story much more vivid, there was not a single useful piece of information. I frowned, knowing full well that zombies could evolve, but it was a different matter when it didn't happen right at your doorstep. The pressure wasn't directly on us, so naturally, we weren't too stressed. Where is that man? Judy asked. George made a throat-slitting gesture with his thumb. Sarah said, he had only one request when providing information, to be killed swiftly after he had spoken. After seeing how quickly we took them out, he had no hopes of us sparing him. Now that their information was dealt with, it was time for our own. After all, this was a matter of resurrection. Even though Judy insisted I hadn't died, merely claiming her ability was to heal wounds, it seemed almost like a bug-level power. My ability is roughly about healing wounds with psychic energy, Judy explained. Everyone, except George, remained calm. George looked around incredulously and exclaimed, "How do you all seem to know this?" I thought about it and decided not to keep George in the dark, because I was shot by the man you just interrogated today, and Judy healed my wound. They were all there when it happened. George nearly jumped out of his chair. You were injured. I thought you just had a nosebleed. I calmed George down until Judy, losing patience, kicked his stool, making him sit down. Judy cleared her throat and shared. Winnie and I did some experiments earlier. This ability, let's call it a special ability, can heal others' wounds depending on my psychic strength. Besides, it can also utilize zombie crystals. Judy shook a zombie crystal in her hand, then held it tightly and pulled out a new knife from her pocket, lightly cutting her finger. Blood slowly began to seep from the cut. Judy concentrated intensely on the cut on her hand. The wound healed at a visibly fast pace. Judy opened her palm to show us the zombie crystal, now slightly lighter in color. As you can see, the color of this zombie crystal has faded a bit. It suggests that this thing isn't disposable. It might need recharging, but whatever the case, the special ability can use zombie crystals as an energy source. George stared at the zombie crystal in Judy's hand for a long while. I don't see any color change. I turned away and coughed, embarrassed to look at Jack sitting opposite me. Judy confidently stated, for such a small wound, how could it consume much of the zombie crystal's energy? But as a person who has awakened a special ability, can't you see such a slight difference in color? I was a bit embarrassed because our decision to use zombie crystals for experiments was mainly due to similar novels I had read. Plus, zombies don't eat or drink, and they aren't plants that can photosynthesize, so something must be fueling them. And zombie crystals are the most likely candidate. Judy also mentioned that in her past life, she had seen cases where individuals bitten by zombies not only didn't turn but also healed quite quickly. It was my turn. I have a plan for dealing with the people outside. We can't keep them here, but we can let them leave. They can take 2 large vehicles. Out of 5 adults, surely someone can drive. Even if they can't drive a large vehicle, my dad could teach them in 2 days. There's no need. I can teach them, Jack said. Sarah nodded. I can drive a big truck and can teach as well. What have you been through, Sarah? I continued. For supplies, we can give them most of what's still on the big truck. If that's not enough, they can trade zombie crystals with us for other resources. Anyway, we need to deal with the bodies outside, or the smell will endanger our fortress. As for a place to stay, they can use the villa closest to us. Whether they venture out or trade with us using zombie crystals later depends on them. The next morning, fully armed, I, George, and Kevin headed to the outer perimeter. Jack, Tina, Sarah, Mandy, and Judy's dad came too, but they went directly to the outer wall to kill zombies and didn't join us. I asked Zane to gather the people. 11 people lined up in 2 rows, scattered in front of me. They stood. They appeared to be in good health, especially the one who I initially thought was a bit crazy. After cleaning up, she turned out to be a rare beauty. I knew who she was, Zane's sister, Snow. Standing on the sandy outskirts, I said to them, "Our house has limited space, you all know that you can't stay, right?" They didn't respond, but Snow, with a smile, said, "We know, mister. Jack told us yesterday. By the way, how's your arm? Did the wound heal?" They probably saw me getting shot yesterday, but because it wasn't clear from a distance where the bullet hit. Jack told them it was my arm when he checked on them yesterday. To conceal Judy's abilities, I had even wrapped a bandage around my arm. Waving my hand, I smiled and said, "It's nothing." Then I asked, "Does any of you know how to drive?" 3 of the 5 women stepped forward, including Snow. "Good," I continued. "Does anyone know how to drive a big truck?" Everyone remained silent, confirming that individuals like Sarah were indeed rare. I sighed, "Although you can't stay here. We won't let you die either. You remember the villa not far from here, right?" "We do. Drive a truck to that villa. There aren't many zombies around here. As long as you keep quiet and don't make strong smells, you won't attract them." "But the walls and doors of that villa have been damaged," I replied. "It doesn't matter. I have bricks, cement, and steel. I can provide you with materials." Their eyes lit up. "But you'll need to provide me with something in return." I pulled out a zombie crystal and showed it to them. "These crystals are found in the brains of zombies. Whether you want food or cement, you'll trade with these." Just then, George came over, covering his mouth with his hand, whispering to me, "Are you really giving them cement?" "We don't have much of that at home," I responded. "Cement doesn't store well. It's not good once it expires. Let's give them half for now. And it's not certain they'll be able to exchange that much anyway." Turning back to the group, I said, "Resources are limited. First come, first served." One of the women with a ponytail asked, "But how are we supposed to kill the zombies?" Shaking my head, I replied, "You don't need to kill the zombies, at least not now. We will take care of that. You just need to transport the zombie bodies further away in a truck, use a chainsaw to open their heads, find the crystals, then pour some gasoline on them and burn them. Burying them would be better. But with so many zombies, that would take forever. Can you do this?" I asked loudly. The 5 women looked at each other, gritted their teeth, and replied, "We can do it." I couldn't provide resources for free. Favors owed can turn into grudges if not repaid. They were just 4 kilometers away, practically neighbors. If they became dependent on our help and took our gratitude for granted, it could lead to conflicts. Human vengeance can be more troublesome than zombies. At least zombies can't think of climbing over using human bodies. Good, then in about an hour, all the zombies outside will be eliminated by us. The task of clearing the zombies and finding the crystals is up to you. Good luck, workers, with guns. What's there to fear from zombies? Against us, zombies are like elementary students fighting national athletes. After eliminating the zombies, we suited up in protective gear, ready to go out with them. By then, those who were going to clear the bodies were almost ready. 5 women and 2 children, clad in barely adequate protective gear, one of the children being Zane, 11 years old, just a bit older than David. David is likely at the villa now, either watching something on a tablet or playing games with Summer, but Zane had to join his sister and aunts in search of zombie crystals. The other child, Jennifer, was tall for her age. I only realized she was the same age as Zane. Perhaps even slightly younger. After asking, both of them had approached me, volunteering to help clear out zombies. Zane wanted to help his sister, while Jennifer's reason was, "Don't we need the crystals to trade for food?" She sighed, "If I'm scared of even dead zombies, what will I do later? We can't expect to always have someone around to save us. A child must be dearly loved by their family." The apocalypse truly forces one to grow up fast. Jack, Sarah, Kevin, and George joined me, and we took 3 cars out. The sound of tires crushing flesh and the occasional squishing of organs was quite nauseating, and Sarah, who was driving, visibly grimaced more than once. After parking, we divided the tasks. Jack went to check for useful supplies. Sarah and I were on lookout duty. Kevin and George handled moving the bodies. The other 7 also had their roles. Snow and Zane were tasked with cutting open the zombies' brains with a chainsaw, while Jennifer was responsible for extracting the crystals. Slicing open the heads and searching for crystals was relatively easy but quite gruesome. One look at Jennifer and I knew she was destined for great things. Her face showed no sign of disgust or revulsion. The first time I had to do it, I nearly threw up, though I managed to hold it in. The other 4 people loaded the zombies onto the truck. And once it was full, they drove it to a remote area, doused it with gasoline, and set it on fire. Soon, a bright orange flame lit up in the distance, followed by a foul smell that reached us even through our masks. At the upwind, Jack came down from the truck, placing something on it. I casually asked, "Uncle Jack, find anything good?" He replied, "A satellite phone. We'll try to contact some people we know once we get back." I fell silent, feeling a bit guilty, but then defiantly said, "Oh. A satellite phone, we have one at home." Jack gave me a look that spoke volumes. That look made me feel like a schoolchild who had done something wrong, so I explained, "We used to try calling 911 every few days, but there was no signal, so we stopped." I wasn't lying, we did try every few days, especially at the beginning of the apocalypse. After about a week, we gave up and hadn't thought about it since. Jack sighed and went to help Kevin and the others move bodies. Our efficiency was high. To avoid burning too many bodies at once, which could make the fire uncontrollable, we set up several small fires spaced apart. Our goal wasn't to turn them to ash but just to char the zombies to reduce the smell of blood. While we were busily at work, a few gunshots rang out from the direction of the fortress. It was Tina, meaning a few zombies had wandered over, but Tina could handle them. Amid scattered gunshots, we destroyed over 200 zombies, clearing the path for our return. It was nearly 11 o'clock, and I planned to call it a day soon. Just then, Snow next to me suddenly laughed nervously. Even Jennifer, who had remained composed until now, shivered. I looked over and realized they had dug up Anderson. I was somewhat expectant because Anderson and his group had been alive when they were shot in the head. If we found crystals in their brains, it could prove that what was in Kevin's brain was similar to zombie crystals. Snow's efficiency suddenly increased. Bursting the brains of her enemies seemed to bring her some perverse joy. Among these people, we found 2 blue crystals and 1 purple crystal. It turns out there are different colors, but I have no idea what these colors signify. Suddenly, the sound of gunfire changed, a regular pattern of shots accompanied by a whistle. This meant a large horde of zombies was rapidly approaching us. We quickly got into the car and headed back to the fortress. About 5 or 6 minutes later, the zombies had surrounded the outer wall. Seeing this from the outer wall, I felt like all our efforts today had been in vain. At noon, Mandy cooked the meal. It seemed like yesterday's events had spurred him on, and today he was determined to cook personally to pamper his girlfriend. Tina joined us on guard duty at the outer wall. My mom was happy to see people in love and didn't interfere. Mandy prepared all the dishes today. The table was adorned with dishes like Westlake beef soup garnished with green onions, golden corn cakes, bright red boiled meat slices, garlic roasted ribs that you could smell from afar, tender boiled cabbage, and in the middle, a crispy skinned roast goose. Roast goose, my big white, I exclaimed in shock. I'd never eaten goose before. Surely Mandy had taken it upon himself to cook my beloved goose. Furious, my eyes practically shot fire as I resolutely walked toward Sarah. Big white, "I'm going to avenge you." Just as I was about to complain to Sarah, Judy, leaning against the doorframe and putting down her sunflower seeds, said, "Your big white is still alive. Think about it, with their combat power, who would dare mess with them?" That made sense. My big white goose, in terms of combat power, was definitely stronger than Judy and Mandy. Then where did this goose come from? "I remember we didn't buy one," Judy replied. "We did buy one. But your brother seems to have confused the dead geese with ducks. When he was making the Excel sheet, he registered the goose as a duck." After changing clothes and washing hands, we sat down to eat. Professor Leo sat next to me, constantly remarking how the rich food these days was hard to digest. I nodded in agreement. Indeed, with the Buddha jumps over the wall yesterday and such a lavish spread today, if it weren't for my daily exertions fighting zombies outdoors, I would have definitely gained 3 pounds from these meals alone. After the meal, Kevin and I, carrying packed food, a box of self-heating hot pot, a box of self-heating rice, and a bottle of mineral water, went to the outer ring. Judging by the time, the food outside should be nearly gone. Arriving at the outer ring, I set down the items and asked them how their day had been. Snow pulled out a bag filled with zombie crystals and weighed it in her hand. "We found 24 crystals today. We've discussed it and decided to split half of the zombie crystals we find among the 11 of us, and the rest will be evenly divided among those of us who go out to move bodies," I said. that sounds fair. Have you thought about what you want to exchange them for? She shook her head. We haven't decided yet. We unanimously agreed to store these crystals with you for now, until we've cleared out all the zombies. Then we'll exchange them. Kevin interjected with a teasing look. Aren't you afraid she'll deny having them? I elbowed him. Snow shook her head. We trust you. We have to rely on you guys. You saved us from kidnappers, provided us with food, water, a place to sleep, and even the chance to bathe. Although we don't know what these zombie crystals are for, as a token of our gratitude, you can hold on to them for now since we can't use them. That's a smart move. Rather than calling it trust, it's more like currying favor. This is what it means to be at someone's mercy. Handing over the crystals to me only increases my leverage since this is my turf. They have no choice. I smiled and extended my hand. So, shall we agree to a pleasant cooperation? Snow shook my hand. Pleasant cooperation indeed. After repeating this for 5 days, we finally cleared the zombies from the surrounding area. Looking through a telescope from the outer wall at the piles of zombies burned to char, along with the red mist filling the air, it felt like stumbling upon a scene from a cult ritual. Besides that, in these 5 days, my dad and Sarah took turns teaching the 3 who could drive how to operate a truck, in a very straightforward and rough manner. After all, there are no living people on the highways anymore. Day 66 of the apocalypse. Today is the day they leave the fortress. They provided me with a staggering 389 zombie crystals, which far exceeded my expectations. In return, they could take away 2 large vehicles, a small car, all the supplies on the large vehicles, half of our cement stock, the unused steel and bricks from the landfill renovation, a pair of rabbits, 200 kilograms of rice, 200 kilograms of flour, 30 kilograms of cured meat, 30 kilograms of sugar, 30 kilograms of salt, 50 boxes of water, 10 bottles of multivitamins. And some small items like seeds for green vegetables, dried bamboo shoots, mushrooms, and watermelon knives. Compared to the zombie crystals, I felt that these goods were quite modest, but Snow and the others were very grateful when they saw the supplies yesterday. Uncle Jack said there's a well in that villa. Although the groundwater similar to well water should not be contaminated, you should still test it with a rabbit before use. Zombies might evolve, so be careful when you go out. I advised. Snow laughed. Got it, you worry too much, even though I'm older than you. Finally, before she climbed down the external wall using the rope ladder, I gave them 2 rifles and plenty of ammunition. I hope you can survive well, I said as I handed the box containing the guns and bullets to Snow. You can always trade with us using zombie crystals if needed. I have a feeling they will be very important in the future. If we still have a future, I said with a smile. Snow, confidently holding the rifle, smiled. Of course, we will definitely have a future. Snow swiftly boarded the large truck, waved at us before driving away with the 2 trucks and 1 car, with the supplies already on the vehicles and those I provided. They could last over 3 months in that villa without doing anything, whether they choose to sit tight with the food or venture out to clear new grounds. That was their call. Though only 4 kilometers away, we wouldn't see each other often. In the following days, life returned to normal. We ate, slept, fought zombies, and collected zombie crystals. During this time, we inspected the outer walls, which were sturdy and undamaged both inside and out. Occasionally, I'd use the telescope on the 4th floor to observe, and I could see Snow and the others working in the distance. They were unskilled, and the younger ones helping out often made messes, but they were diligent and managed to repair the gate in a few days. From the entertainment room's drawer, I retrieved a satellite phone I had bought previously and gave it to Jack. Unlike us who only dialed 110 and listened to the busy tone, Jack dialed a number of someone unknown. It was the first time I heard a hiss from the satellite phone that wasn't a busy tone. However, Jack didn't get through in the end, but his expression didn't change. He even seemed relaxed, explaining to me this meant satellite communications should work, which would be beneficial for transmitting governmental orders. I was also pleased inside, as this meant there would be officially organized safe zones in the future. Day 94 of the apocalypse. At 7 a.m., I woke up on time. Under Jack's training, I hadn't overslept for a long time. Although Jack never forced us to exercise, everyone did it voluntarily. After all, surviving the apocalypse is not easy. I had just walked to the living room when Judy excitedly rushed over to tell me that the fog outside had cleared. Looking at the sky outside, I couldn't help but feel tears brimming in my eyes. How long had it been since I had seen such a beautiful blue sky? I wiped the corner of my eye and pulled out my phone to dial. Still no connection. I calmly put the phone away. It wasn't the first time I was disappointed, and we had gotten used to it. Jack managed to contact someone he knew using a satellite phone. The person on the other end promised to send a convoy to pick us up quickly. After getting our consent, Jack provided them with our location, the number of people, and the amount of supplies we had. Initially, I was slightly worried that these people might have ill intentions, possibly looking to seize our territory and supplies. However, we didn't really have a choice. About 10 days ago, on patrol, I noticed several piles of zombies had collapsed nearby. Although it seemed odd at the time, I didn't pay much attention to it, merely sharing the discovery with others to keep them alert. Soon after, we noticed an increase in mutated plants, or maybe they weren't just plants, they could be hybrids of mutated animals and plants. They began to actively hunt zombies. We once observed something, whether it was a root or a vine, piercing through a zombie's brain and then dragging it underground. We reasonably speculated that among the groups of bandits, there might be zombie crystals we hadn't detected. The mutated plants could have evolved through these crystals and started hunting zombies possessing them. Fortunately, these mutated plants hadn't turned their attention to us yet. That didn't make our situation much better, though. Although I felt we couldn't defeat the mutated plants, we couldn't just abandon our fortress. After all, we had nowhere else to go. The turnaround came quicker than expected. Moreover, Kevin recognized the voice on the phone. He secretly told me, "Don't worry, I recognized it. It's my dad." I immediately felt relieved. This is what you call a society built on relationships, I guess. For Kevin's dad to dispatch a convoy so quickly, he must hold significant power. "It's a good thing you're here," I said. "Even if the safe zone knew we were here, they probably wouldn't have acted so fast," Kevin responded calmly. "My dad didn't send help so quickly because of me," Jack chuckled. "You're quite self-aware. The real reason he's so urgent is because of Professor Leo. Though he's officially just a biology professor at University X, he's actually a top expert in biology, chemistry, and virology. If the military had contacted him sooner, we might already have a vaccine by now." I felt indignant and complained internally. "What do you mean, just a biology professor at University X? While it's just a regular first-level university, it's still a first level." Professor Leo also chimed in. "If I hadn't run off with you guys, by the time the military found me, the grass on my grave would be 3 meters tall." The next day, in the afternoon, I was playing chess with Professor Leo. He lost 3 games in a row and was clamoring for another round. Professor Leo was a terrible chess player and didn't like it when others went easy on him. Whether it was Chinese chess, Go, Connect 4, or Ludo, his skills were mediocre at best, and he wouldn't let his opponent leave after losing. As I was racking my brain for an excuse to leave, the convoy arrived. Even though I thought we could drive ourselves, Jack said his brother insisted on sending vehicles to pick us up. If everything went as planned, we would head to the safe zone tomorrow morning. The army guys were very efficient at moving things. While Jack was gathering information from one of the army guys, I tactfully stood aside with Judy to watch them work. As for George and the others, they were helping to organize things inside. After Jack finished speaking, I called over the army guy who was about to start moving things. "Hey, young man, can you share some information?" I waved at him. He looked at Jack, then at me, hesitated for a moment, but still came over to us under Jack's gesture. The young man, named Herman, appeared to hold a fairly high rank and knew quite a bit. He filled us in on some news about the apocalypse. At the onset, a zombie crisis erupted in various places. If it were just zombies, deploying the military and heavy weaponry would quickly bring the situation under control. However, on the 3rd day, a red fog spread, severing all communications except for the government's special means, which barely maintained contact. Initially, infrastructure maintenance ensured that residents had access to water and electricity at home. Nevertheless, the situation deteriorated rapidly when the 3rd hydroelectric power plant, which supplied 80% of the electricity to Jay's City and even to coastal areas, was overtaken by mutated plants, leading to power outages in Jay's City and surrounding towns that have yet to be restored. However, other cities reliant on thermal power did not experience prolonged blackouts since mutated plants avoid these areas. Nationwide, security zones have been nearly fully established, but due to poor communication, few are aware of them. The condition in the cities is dire, with severe mutations in flora and fauna and varying degrees of zombie evolution. Despite this, humans have proven to be incredibly resilient creatures. Many continue to secretly survive in various corners of the cities, preventing the authorities from recklessly using powerful weaponry due to the risk to these hidden survivors. The damage to infrastructure from the mutated plants and animals is significant. Moreover, there are malevolent foreign forces engaging in guerrilla warfare everywhere. I'm not sure about other security zones, but the pressure on the leadership at the El City First Security Zone we're headed to is immense. A month ago, the security zone was preliminarily established, but it now faces complex challenges with its inhabitants. The moral standards have continuously declined, leading to frequent security issues. As more people arrive and search and rescue operations increase, food has become a problem. During a recent supply run, there was an instance of families banding together to rob others, effectively setting themselves up as local rulers. Additionally, the mental health of the populace is a concern, with increasingly self-destructive behavior that seems inexplicable. As Herman grew more animated in his storytelling, it seemed as if he needed to vent. After hearing enough gossip, I asked about what concerned me the most. Do we have to surrender all these supplies? Although not ideal, I was somewhat reluctant. Herman gave us a precise response. People seeking refuge in the security zone can only bring 30 pounds of food each. The zone confiscates 60% of any excess, returning the remainder. The zone also takes 50% of any other supplies. The first security zone, formerly known as a ghost town, is ideally located despite its flaws and poor industrial planning nearby. While the houses, including high-rise villas, are beautifully constructed, they were largely unoccupied. However, they are perfect for establishing a security zone, with many vacant homes available. The safe zone operates on a point system. In the safe zone, the most basic task is to repair the city walls, which anyone can do. Working 8 hours a day will earn you between 100 to 120 points, which can then be exchanged for food and other items at the exchange center. A one-bedroom apartment costs 40 points per day. A villa is more expensive and requires zombie crystals as rent, but this is not paid daily. The exchange rate for zombie crystals to points is roughly 1 to 8,000 or 10,000. The safe zone has a guard team, generally composed of individuals who have made special contributions and are capable of fulfilling the role. There is also a system for hiring squads under the guard team, which includes a bounty center. Those who pass a background check at the bounty center can pay a deposit to rent firearms to go outside and eliminate zombies, search for zombie crystals, or complete officially sanctioned missions. Each completed mission results in the bounty center taking a cut of the earnings or paying an official reward, depending on the share and rewards received. The registered mercenary groups can upgrade. Higher-level mercenary groups can pay fewer deposits and receive more weapon support. There's no need to worry about them hiding the crystals and not handing them over. There are only so many weapons available, and naturally, they are prioritized for the higher-level mercenary groups. Herman explained the rules of the safe zone in great detail, indicating that the regulations were already quite refined. I felt a sense of relief, my mind racing with calculations. The safe zone was just getting started, yet the infrastructure was already quite developed. It was the perfect time for us to move in, whether we wanted to make a name for ourselves or just coast along. If it works out, I'll need to inspire George to strive harder. After all, his youthful enthusiasm isn't new. Such passionate, simple-minded types are perfect for pioneering new eras. That evening, I counted the zombie crystals I had, not realizing until then that I had a total of 608 crystals, including 605 blue and 3 purple ones. Since these crystals can be used as currency in the safe zone, I divided them up in front of everyone, as they were the fruits of our collective labor. Apart from Summer and David, George, Kevin, Jack, and Sarah each received 51 crystals. The remaining 7 people got 50 each. And the 3 purple crystals were distributed, one with me, one with Jack, and one with Professor Leo. Purple crystals must have special properties, but I'm not the one to figure that out. It's better left to the professionals. After dividing the crystals, we each went back to our rooms. The army guys had to make do with sleeping in the small cabins outside. It was still early, just past 8 p.m., and I sat on the living room sofa playing a video game for a while. When the game tallied up my earnings, I suddenly realized something. The exchange rate for zombie crystals to points is roughly 1/8,000/10,000. Logically, they shouldn't be so expensive, considering zombie crystals are relatively easy to obtain. Then it dawned on me that ordinary people killing zombies wouldn't grotesquely search inside the brains for crystals like we did. In the early stages, people eliminating zombies wouldn't consciously look for zombie crystals, which would mostly end up in the hands of mutated zombie animals and plants, potentially accelerating their evolution and making them tougher to deal with next time. Just missing the crystals potentially hidden in the bandits' clothes had already turned the surrounding plants aggressive and dangerous, forcing me, the laid-back fish, to always be ready to flee. Even if they later discovered the crystals inside zombie heads, it would be difficult for them to safely extract them like we did, especially in the early days of a newly established safe zone. It would be unsettling to crack open a skull under zombie siege. Moreover, my instincts tell me that mutated plants and animals with or without zombie crystal enhancements are completely different beasts. They might consciously target zombies with crystals, and they could also potentially target humans holding zombie crystals, since we discovered that Judy has special abilities and can recharge her powers through crystals. It stands to reason that people in the safe zone should be aware of this. They also have ways to communicate with the outside world, which means they likely have more intelligence than us. Moreover, the fluctuating exchange rates are probably due to the energy consumed by the superpowered individuals from the crystals. When a crystal's energy falls below a certain level, it can no longer be exchanged for points and can only be used as a source of energy. I plan to tell Jack that mutated plants and animals might attack those carrying zombie crystals. Jack then informed me that he had already learned about this when he was on the phone with his brother. That's why his brother is sending a convoy to pick us up. Considering our group consists largely of the old, weak, and sick, thinking we could cross 240 kilometers to the safe zone without harm is pure fantasy. I rubbed the back of my head, planning to make an excuse to sneak off to sleep, but then Jack patted my shoulder and said, "I've seen all the decisions you've made for everyone during this time. You've worked hard." Touching my head, I chuckled and quickly replied, "It's no trouble at all." Suddenly, this warmth threw me off. I'm really not used to it. Day 95 of the apocalypse, Judy and I had been stockpiling supplies for over a month, filling every vehicle in the convoy that came to pick us up, 5 trucks, plus 3 left by the bandits, each packed to the brim, and we still had many items left to move. Herman mentioned that our supplies were abundant and well-positioned geographically. Next time they came out for supplies, they would help us transport them back but would charge a 30% fee for handling and labor. Apart from Professor Leo, Jack, and Mandy, who boarded the convoy, the rest of us took our own prepared vehicles, 3 Land Rovers and a regular car, though these are common assets outside. Snow and others also joined us en route to the safe zone, since our location is in the suburbs. And the safe zone is also remotely located without passing through any cities. Herman's team had already cleared the route of zombies and mutated plants once. With heavy firepower, we made it through without much danger. About 8 hours later, we arrived at the boundaries of the safe zone. The safe zone was strategically located, surrounded by mountains. To enter, we first had to pass through 2 long tunnels. Truly a gateway that's hard to breach. 30-meter-high watchtowers were scattered around the outer perimeter of the safe zone for surveillance. The safe zone was more magnificent than I imagined. The outermost wall stood 40 meters high, with zipline stations built around 20 meters up. These ziplines connected to the outer watchtowers and some ropes stretched deep into the forest, their purpose unknown. I felt conflicted. These ziplines seemed to be a repurposing of the infrastructure from a tourist area. But it didn't seem like a place suitable for industrial development. Remembering what Herman had initially told me, I could only say that the safe zone was much larger than I had imagined. It felt somewhat ominous. Managing such a large area seemed like a daunting task, but we had arrived. I was a bit worried, but went ahead anyway. I thought we would have to undergo quarantine outside for 3 days, but that wasn't the case. In the temporary quarantine facility, medical staff took a small tube of blood from each of us, and half an hour later, we smoothly entered the safe zone's outer perimeter. It was very sophisticated. We quickly completed the necessary formalities. Then, a dignified, icy-faced leader with the aura of a superior, accompanied by a dozen security personnel, came to respectfully welcome Professor Leo to the Research Institute. Throughout the process, the leader did not spare a glance for us commoners, setting aside his playful mask. Professor Leo, calm as still water, stepped out from among us and exchanged formalities with the leader indifferently, taking Mandy and Jack with him in the leader's vehicle. Before leaving, Professor Leo specially rolled down the window and winked at us. leaving the rest of us standing there, dumbfounded. I knew that Professor Leo was a heavyweight in his field, crucial to the world, but normally, I hardly felt it, indeed. One's achievements cannot be separated from the contrast provided by others. Who is that? Judy poked Herman, and I nodded frantically beside her, very curious about who the big shot was, because the professor had significant influence. Herman was specifically left with us by Jack to serve as our guide. After entering the secure zone, people like Snow and Zane were still at the administrative hall processing their documents. Herman introduced us to the big shot's identity. That's the top leader of L City's first security zone, and also, Judy and I calmly nodded, indicating we understood. In reality, Judy and I weren't very interested in military affairs, so we weren't very clear about the titles Herman just mentioned. However, I could guess that this person must be very important, seeing George almost fainting with excitement. Then Herman looked at me puzzled and said, "Aren't you Kevin's girlfriend, don't you know?" I was also puzzled. What does this have to do with Kevin? I looked towards Kevin, who was idly hanging back in the crowd. Kevin looked everywhere but at me, then he whispered, "That guy is my dad, we don't really get along." I couldn't believe that such a big shot could have a son as clueless as my boyfriend. I calmly accepted the fact that the big shot was my boyfriend's father, and in my mind, I indefinitely postponed the plan Kevin had mentioned about getting married as soon as we reached the safe zone. Later, I learned that the safe zone covered a very large area, the specifics of which were confidential. Based on Herman's recommendation, I bought a 2-story villa at the foot of the mountain, centrally located close to the research institute and the decision-making court. Converted from hotels, it was secure and well-positioned, inhabited by either the wealthy or the distinguished, of course, mainly the wealthy. The people in L City's first security zone were mostly ordinary civilians rescued by the emergency teams. With the apocalypse, assets were likely getting a total reshuffle, and so-called wealthy people now probably referred to those like me who had more resources. To buy this villa, I had to spend a total of 180 zombie crystals. I found out that although some humans and zombies both had crystals in their brains, these crystals weren't linked to special abilities. They seemed more like an energy source. Simply put, if humans were extinct, and future intelligent beings needed to mine fossil fuels, they would be mining human bodies, just like humans mined oil. Currently, news from B City's safe zone indicated that these crystals had a very high energy conversion rate and were classified as strategic resources, with their value expected to rise in the future. But it was worth it. Not only was the location of this small villa good, but it also came with a basement, which allowed Judy and me to store the supplies we had hoarded. After surviving the apocalypse, I felt everyone developed a bit of a hoarding instinct. Still, I had too many supplies to fit. Although I could have exchanged them for credits at the logistics office, I didn't do that because Sarah had borrowed 30 zombie crystals from me, and along with Mandy and Professor Leo, who had their own crystals, bought a villa next to mine and became my neighbors. I wasn't surprised by Sarah, we had gotten quite close recently. What I didn't expect was that Jack and his group also bought a villa next to my house. I thought they would live somewhere safer, like the elusive Big Shot's home, but this was better, so I simply shared the remaining supplies with Jack and Sarah. Unexpectedly, Sarah returned 50 crystals to me the next day, explaining that the safe zone had initially planned to allocate a better house to Professor Leo, but he had refused. So they had to refund the money to them, including those supplies. She rounded it up and gave me 50 crystals. The safe zone had a local network, and from the moment we passed identity verification, we were issued digital bracelets that allowed credit transactions via fingerprint and password authentication. Crystal transactions required a visit to the bounty center. Reminiscent of recharging game cards in our childhood, I did not refuse Sarah's generosity. Our life in the safe zone gradually got on track. Professor Leo, along with his disciples and other researchers, spent 3 months developing a vaccine against zombies. Although this vaccine couldn't turn zombies back into humans, it significantly reduced the possibility of humans turning into zombies. Because we had successfully escorted Professor Leo and Professor Jack, the safe zone specifically arranged suitable jobs for us, though I felt our survival outside was largely due to Jack's training. But one shouldn't refuse good fortune when it comes knocking. I happily accepted the job assigned to me by the organization. The job was located at the bounty center under the Guard Corps, which was exactly the job I had always dreamed of. It involved little work but offered good pay, and as long as one didn't engage in corruption, it could be a lifelong position, of course. This was under the assumption that the safe zone would last a lifetime. My parents and Judy's dad joined the logistics team. Although the pay was less, the work was more relaxed. Judy joined the demolition team of the rescue squad, often going to the city with them to save ordinary people who were still fighting for survival. George and Sarah hit it off immediately, being top in terms of combat skills. They rejected the jobs provided by the safe zone and set up a mercenary group instead. Their daily tasks involved collaborating with the rescue teams to save people, kill zombies, and retrieve documents and samples of mutated flora and fauna from cities turned into ruins. Zane also joined their mercenary group. As for Kevin, he was now holed up at home every day working on Red Mist communication technology, staying up late coding with the goal of collaborating with technicians from other safe zones to rebuild the internet within 3 months. Lying on the couch playing video games, I asked him, "Why push yourself so hard, you're almost going bald," holding his laptop. He touched his hair with a worried expression, sighed, and said, "If I can't get it up and running in 3 months, my dad will make me go back and learn how to handle the political affairs in the safe zone. I'd rather code and study new signal wavelengths than face his stern expression every day." I comforted him by saying, "Your dad isn't that scary, you know, look how well he's managed the safe zone, he's played a major role." I believe a good girlfriend should take an interest in her boyfriend's family issues. Kevin put down his laptop, pulled me into his arms, and asked, "So, shall we get married?" Thinking of his father's face, handsome yet naturally commanding, I reconsidered. After all, what matters most in life is happiness. If he loves coding, let him code. As for marriage, maybe next time. Day 469 Post-apocalypse. With the breakthrough in Red Mist communication technology, information exchange between safe zones improved significantly. The casualty rates for the rescue and mercenary teams gradually decreased. Although zombies evolved rapidly, they were ultimately no match for humans. The threat to humanity gradually shifted from zombies to mutated plants and animals. With zombie crystal energy as the core technology, a new wave of explosive scientific development began, and products such as mechs and armored suits were gradually introduced. I even had the privilege of observing the first pulse levitation craft powered by zombie crystal energy in the lab. We are stepping into a new era. Will we head towards extinction, or towards the stars and seas? It all starts with this terrible apocalypse. Day 623 Post-apocalypse. Zombies have been nearly eradicated domestically, and people are leaving the safe zones as the nation is liberated. Day 639 Post-apocalypse. The military, in collaboration with the Scientific Academy, developed drugs to drive most harmful plants and animals out of the cities. Day 678 Post-apocalypse. The apocalypse ends. Day 100 Post-apocalypse. I watched the news at home with Kevin. Because he failed to fulfill the wager with his father, he had to switch from a technical to an administrative position after completing the Red Mist project, and I, on Jack's recommendation, also reluctantly moved to the tough administrative sector. Giving up a high-paying easy job wasn't easy, but Jack convinced me with just one sentence, "Don't waste your talent, you can do better." I never called Jack teacher, but I think he understood me better than any teacher I ever had. You see, I climbed the administrative ladder even faster than Kevin. Our leisure time hobby also shifted from playing video games to watching the news. At that moment, the TV was broadcasting international news. The United Nations announced, in this global disaster, the world's population of 8.5 billion has plummeted to 3.3 billion, with 102 countries completely wiped out. In just under 2 years, the survival rate is less than 40%. I sighed. If we don't count the permanent member countries, the survival rate would be even lower. Kevin removed his glasses, worn from staying up late reviewing documents. Our country, with its large population, had a slightly higher survival rate than others due to the people's unyielding spirit and timely government rescue efforts. The news continued. The United Nations, permanent members, we should set aside prejudices, and together build a better, more hopeful world. Do you think it's possible for humanity to set aside prejudices based on nationality, race, and region? I fiddled with the ring on my left ring finger. Of course, Kevin replied, optimistic about the future. Because our sights are no longer confined to this world, Kevin said as he rested his head on my lap and gradually fell asleep. We've both been very tired recently, but it has been worth it. I looked out the window, watching the latest generation of spacecraft swiftly fly by. The beautiful starry sky above us is the new world we are about to enter. That's all the story. What do you think of this story? Share with me in the comments section. What would you do if you were in this situation? Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.